Good morning. Happy Thursday. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Joint practice day for the Tennessee Titans down in Tampa. With you until 1 o'clock, I'm Lucas Panzica, Robert Walsh on the other side of the glass. We will hear from Buck later in the show. We are, of course, fueled by the best hot chicken in the world, Hattie B's. So, Titans are currently on the practice field as we speak, practicing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brad Callahan met with the media earlier. If you were listening to Ramon and Will in the morning, you caught it. We'll play some of that for you here in a bit. Mostly it seems like one-on-one stuff has happened, a lot of drills. I don't think any team stuff has gone down yet. But here's how today will work. 11 o'clock, Cam Ward steps up to the podium in Tampa. We'll carry that for you live. And then at noon, Buck will check in and he'll give us all his observations from what the day was in practice. And then Buck, we will play his sit down with a Titans player that is not totally 100% confirmed at 12:20. So stick around until hour 3 to find out. We are on 104.5 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, where you can chime in. What is one area that you really want to see the Titans tested today against the Buccaneers? Or since you're not seeing it, at least hear about the Titans being tested against the Bucs. A couple of housekeeping things. T'Vondre Sweat not out there. Blake Hance, the offensive lineman, not out there again. Kevin Winston Jr. not out there. The rookie safety and defensive lineman Carlos Watkins not practicing. Callahan did say with his media availability earlier that L'Jarius Sneed and Lloyd Cushenberry might be back at practice next week, but that's for next week. When we're talking about joint practice with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, how much more do we feel like we can learn about the Titans with joint practice? Understanding that we're not there, boots on the ground. Buck is, a few other Titans media members are. But in totality, when we try to overreact to everything that we see in training camp, Robert, how much more valuable do you think it is for us to get a gauge on where this team is when they step on the field with a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are consistently winning 9 to 10 games a year and winning a poor division in the last few years?
Through our perspective on practice or this game? What do you mean?
I mean, just gauging where the Titans are at this point in training camp. Like, how much easier do you feel it is to do that with joint practice as opposed to just watching a regular training camp practice with the team?
I think it's valuable, but I also think there's marks in it that can be ambiguous because, I mean, if you follow social media, if you're watching all the updates that are coming out, Jordan Schultz posted a clip of Buccaneers rookie wide receiver Emeka Egbuka taking a pass, catching a long ball down the sideline in one-on-ones, and says, "When I tell you Emeka Egbuka has been everything and then some for the Bucs, I mean every word of it." And maybe you take that as saying like, "Oh, the Titans secondary is not really faring well against these wide receivers." And then you watch the clip, and number 40 on the Titans is covering him. Do you know who number 40 is?
If I'm not mistaken, I say this at the risk of getting it wrong. Is that Davian Ross?
That is correct.
Oh, okay.
That is Davian Ross. Are you familiar with his experience in the league or his experience before getting the league?
I just know he's a Memphis guy.
Yeah, he's a rookie from Memphis.
Yeah.
Okay, so Emeka Egbuka burnt a rookie from Memphis. Now, if you took that flatly without any of the parameters that I just added, you would think, oh, the Titans secondary's sucking out there. But when you take the other information that we just gave you, that he's burning a at best practice squad level cornerback, you may feel a little bit better with no necessary reason, because like they're still getting burnt, but it's not like L'Jarius Sneed just showed up and is all of a sudden swatting balls out of the air. So I think you have to take a lot of it with a grain of salt, and that's why it's important that we have important people down there like Jim Wyatt. I would say Buck, but I don't really know what he's going to gather from it.
No.
But listening to these people about practice who can give you bipartisan information. So I would say take a lot of this with a grain of salt. I would take more from the game than I would the practices, but that wasn't your question. Your question was, how much can we get out of this practice?
Well, I take a lot from team drills in these settings. Brian Callahan, in fact, spoke this morning about what kind of context they want to see Cam Ward play in during team drills with some of the situations he's going to be playing in.
Multiple scripted periods, some base downs, some third downs, some kind of first, second, third. We'll have a 2-minute period, which will be unscripted, and then we'll have at the end of practice, just a move the ball, call it as you play it. So we'll have a full scrimmage-ish where it's just straight call it from. We'll get spotted by the officials and call plays and all that stuff. So some mostly scripted and a little bit off script.
Is it conceivable then that in totality, Cam will see kind of less freelance to defense than he's seen in practices with you?
Hard to say. I mean, I don't know what they're going to call. It's scripted in the sense that they know what personnel we're putting on the field, but other than that, we don't know what they're going to do. We watch some of their tape, and what Coach Bowles does from a schematic standpoint, but still have no idea what it's going to look like. So it's good for us. It'll be exciting.
So that's Brian Callahan speaking earlier about what kind of situations they'll be putting Cam Ward and the Titans offense in today whenever they get to team drills. Seeing some stuff coming down with the one-on-ones. Bert, you mentioned the Emeka Egbuka play with Davion Ross covering him. I do think besides that, there was a little bit of sloppy play from Titans receivers, it seems like, from various practice reports, but we'll get hopefully some more detail on that from Buck. Although I don't know how much we'll actually get from Buck. I think he's just down there because he doesn't want to do the show today.
The good thing is he hangs around a lot of smart people. So he can soak up information from people that are actually smart. So I'm hoping that maybe Teron is around. He's around Jim Wyatt. He's around some of the other intelligent Titans media members who can give us a good, up-to-date practice report.
Agreed. If there is any use for Buck, that is it. If you hear him say anything that resembles something smart today, it's been regurgitated by somebody who said it next to him. It is not an original thought. A disclaimer before we talk to him in hour 3.
I did see him say that anytime someone other than James Prochet fields a punt, there are bad things that happen. And
I did see that too.
I just think that's a fabrication.
Okay.
Maybe someone dumb was standing next to him.
We'll see. I don't
want to take it away.
I'm afraid I might agree with him on that.
This weekend he's going to have an incredible game for the Titans. He's going to take a punt back to the house, and I'm going to have to eat all of these words when he's on the show.
I think he might be your punt returner. We'll see. 615-737-1045. So what do you want to hear about from joint practice today with the Bucs? I want to hear about some give and take when it comes to team drills. I don't want to see a lot of one-sided matchups with Titans and Bucs. I think back to joint practice last year with the Seahawks, and the glaring takeaway, of course, was how the practice ended, right? 2-minute drill to close out the day. Levis immediately throws an interception. They ended on that note. Unfortunately, that was a sign of what was to come, and we didn't even get a good enough sample in that team drill of Titans versus Seahawks. I hope we get more information to go off of with Titans versus Bucs, and I hope there's some give and take there. There are a lot of fascinating matchups here with these two teams getting some work. Cam Ward against that Todd Bowles defense, which we've talked about, the amount of stuff that Todd Bowles can throw at the rookie quarterback. The Titans offensive line against that Bucs front seven. Like we mentioned it yesterday. Hassan Reddick and Yaya Diaby are two better individual pass rushers than anybody the Titans have right now on their football team. So that's a good test for the tackles, who have been very solid in camp so far, which is a nice departure from the narratives of camps past. But let's see them go up against two bona fide pass rushers. And the one thing the Titans defensive line has had a decent advantage in so far is the interior. And that makes sense. Jeffrey Simmons is the best player on this team. Jeffrey Simmons is hoping to restake his claim as one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL this year. Now do it against Vita Vea and the Bucs front and the interior of that defensive line. The Bucs receiver core, that even without Chris Godwin, Robert, is a fantastic test for this Titans secondary. With Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka alone going up against this crop of corners without L'Jarius Sneed. And then probably an underrated part of the Bucs roster, as we were looking at earlier this morning, is their defensive backfield. Their cornerback depth up against these Titans young wide receivers. A lot to unpack from whatever comes out of team drills.
Yeah, the other cool thing about the Bucs is you get to see a wide variety of players, shapes, and sizes. Like you talked about the wide receiver room. Yes, they have Mike Evans. Yes, they have Emeka Egbuka. They also have smaller guys like Tez Johnson out of Oregon, who was a 7th-round pick for them.
That's right.
A speedster. So you get to see a little speed. You get to see a little size. Same thing at the cornerback room where they drafted Jacob Parrish in the 3rd-round cornerback out of Kansas State. He's probably going to be their starting nickel, at least if you're looking off our lads. But then also a 2nd-round pick in Benjamin Morrison, who was kind of a project at cornerback, but a longer, prototypical cornerback type. So you get to see your guys against a variety of different types of players at each position. For me, what I'm looking to see in these practices is I just want to see a little cohesiveness on both sides of the ball. I want to see things starting to gel together where I don't need them to go all the way down the field in a push the ball series. I just need to see the offensive line working together. I need to see Cam completing some balls, some intermediate balls, maybe not throwing a pick over the middle. That's what I would be looking for today.
seen multiple statements from press that are down there. Paul Kaharski is what I'm reading now regarding the passing one-on-one, something that typically should be advantage offense, that overall the body of work was not good for the Titans. I've seen a report from Pewter Report, a Bucs outlet, saying the Titans offense is having some success on the Bucs defense running the football. So we'll get more detail as the day goes on. 615-737-1045 is the number. Michael in Nashville is up first this morning. Hey, Michael.
Hey, I think really what I want to see is just the Titans get a punt off without getting a punter hurt this year.
That'd be great. Thanks for the call. And
a huge point of emphasis, too. New special teams coordinator, new punter, new kicker. You would imagine most of the special teams would also be new.
Punt return job totally up for grabs. So we'll see who gets the nod there. I imagine it'll be Prochet in the preseason game, but Callahan has mentioned we'll probably see multiple guys rotating back deep in those punt situations. So a lot to unpack still for the day to come. Titans versus Bucs joint practice. Again, Cam Ward will speak at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. But in the meantime, we'll pivot and get an update from Vols Fall Camp as Adam Sparks of Knoxville News Sentinel joins us next. So we've spent weeks at this point dissecting every morsel of information, of sample size that we see from Cam Ward, from Titans practice. It will be a bit of a relief here to turn the tables a little bit, as Tennessee has had, I think I can count on one hand, the amount of padded practices at fall camp. But Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel, our good friend, joins us this morning to overreact to what he's seen, the limited stuff he's seen out at Vols practice. Adam, good morning.
Good to be on. Yeah, the overreaction, at least if you ask Tennessee fans, from my standpoint, is definitely the wide receivers. That's the sky is falling, or is it not falling topic of camp. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, what is your, before we get to the quarterback stuff, obviously the sort of turnstile of injuries there, kind of exposing the lack of depth. Where is your level of concern about that room at this point, a month out or less than a month out from kickoff?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not a problem today, but it's a potential problem because of the injuries. I mean, yesterday they looked fine of who was out there. Every day before that, way too many drops. I mean, I've been less concerned about the quarterbacks, more concerned about the wideouts because there've been so many drops. But that's because of who is out there and what they started with. I mean, Chris Brazzell is still out with a minor injury. Mike Matthews is back, but he's wearing a red jersey. He's got a knee brace on. Braylon Staley is still out. So that's your three guys that you figure are going to start. None of those three guys have not practiced together yet. Any of those three guys, if this was any other camp, we would say, hey, that's the guy. Chris Brazzell is the guy that's got to get extra reps this camp because he underperformed last year. He's stepping forward in a bigger role this year. Mike Matthews, for different reasons, we would say that guy's got to get a ton of reps because he's stepping into maybe the number one role. Braylon Staley barely played last year. Any of those three guys, any of the camp, we would say they need extra reps this camp, and they're getting fewer reps because of the injuries. And the fact that they're all three, that's the same narrative with all three, I think is a problem. And then you add on top of that the fact that they have a new quarterback. In the past, we would, it's not surprising there's a number of drops by receivers in practice, at least of what we've seen, because normally you would have like 4 or 5 returning guys. They would run the route, they catch the ball, go to the back of the line, and then a walk-on or a freshman or a newcomer occasionally would drop a ball. The difference in this camp is that that's mostly all that's out there, walk-ons and freshmen and newcomers. And so that's why there's been a lot more drops because there are no ones right now. They're mostly just 2s and 3s.
And there's talent there, right? But like a lot of the roster, it's talent that hasn't done anything yet. That's totally unproven, Adam, and now trying to gel and mesh with whoever's going to come out on top of this starting quarterback competition, which I guess could bring up another point of concern for these vets that you don't necessarily need to see play like a Chris Brazzell. We kind of know what he is, but he hasn't really played football with Joey Aguilar and Merklinger and McIntyre, who at this point are still battling it out. Have you seen anything in the limited sample size to this point to even lean one way or another with the QB competition?
No, is it exactly even? I would say probably not. But is it even enough that Saturday scrimmage should be their first inter-squad scrimmage of camp, that Saturday scrimmage will play a factor? I think it's that close. The receiver part is a big part of this because there's all these new pieces around them. There's 4 new starters on the offensive line. Dylan Sampson is gone, so you have a new starter at running back. You've got all the issues that we've talked about at receiver. So the quarterbacks, and it's Merklinger and McIntyre and Aguilar are not throwing to 1s. Rarely. They're mostly throwing to 2s. And sometimes, depending on where they fall in the line, this is a funny thing, but sometimes – like where the order goes in the drills, you'll have a guy that may be the starting quarterback throwing to only walk-ons, to only 3s. And so it's sort of hard to judge. But of what we've seen, it's Aguilar and Merklinger are pretty close. McIntyre, I think, is definitely the number 3. Give him some time, and he will compete for the starting job next year. They like him a lot, but it's a 2-man race right now, and I'd say it's pretty close going into the scrimmage.
You just put up a piece on Knox News about Joey Aguilar and his interceptions over the last 2 years playing for App State. That's obviously something that's been a strength of pretty much any Tennessee quarterback that's played under Josh Heupel for as many shortcomings as we've seen in moments. turning the ball over hasn't exactly been an issue. How do you kind of bridge the gap between what Aguilar has put out there and if he does win this quarterback job, what the expectation should be of him in that regard in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I think the numbers are pretty telling that Joey Aguilar threw 14 interceptions last year, led all FBS quarterbacks in interceptions. He threw 14 last season. Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton, and Nico threw 15 in their Tennessee careers. So that's 15 picks in 4 years. Joey Aguilar threw 14 picks just last season. That's not to say that that's going to be a problem this year. I mean, the common denominator in all those is that they all played in Josh Heupel's offense, which for one reason or another, guys just do not throw many picks in this offense. You would think Aguilar's numbers are going to be better in that regard. So the Tennessee coaches are not like overly concerned, but when you're talking about a quarterback competition that's pretty tight, anything like that can be a deciding factor. A lot of things have been said about why Aguilar threw so many picks, because he didn't throw that many 2 years ago. He threw a lot more last season. And some of those are legitimate. You know, App State's defense was terrible. He was carrying the weight of the offense. He had lost his best receiver to an injury in the preseason. Most of his picks were thrown when they were trailing. But that's not the whole story, though. I mean, like I highlight in the story, he threw 4 picks against Louisiana Lafayette in a game last season. And you know, one of those was like in the first quarter when the game is really tight. One of those was when App State was down 3 in the fourth quarter, just threw it up for grabs on third down for no reason. He threw another pick, I think, when they were down a touchdown in the fourth quarter. So sometimes we look at that stat and say Joey Aguilar, most of his picks were thrown with App State trailing, but sometimes that was barely trailing, and he really, really tried too much to make a play. He can't do that in this offense, and I know they've explained that to him.
Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel, our guest on 104.5 The Zone, as Tennessee is, are we 3 days into padded practice, Adam, in Knoxville?
Yeah, and I mean, of what we've seen, this is a team that clearly defense is running things. Defense looks great. D-line looks really good. I'm still pleasantly surprised. I don't even know if surprised, but I'm still pretty optimistic about the O-line. I think they're going to be good up front on both sides. Now, we'll know more about that as they get further into padded practices and obviously the scrimmage. But I feel pretty good about what Tennessee has up front. And if you can say you're good up front, then you're probably going to have a pretty good year.
Well, I was going to ask you about that confidence level in the defense. Obviously, there are some uncertainties, I would say, with McCoy and the timetable of his injury and a largely unproven pass rushing group. But in terms of what they put out on the field last year with that unit that I think exceeded all expectations, how does that calibrate expectations for you this year, considering what they have coming back?
Well, I think we saw the template of what this defense can be if they have a lot of guys on the D-line. If they can, I mean, last year they played like 10 guys. They may get close to that this year. Now, there's less proven guys on this D-line, that's for sure. But there's a lot of talent there. I mean, there's a lot of high 4-stars and a couple of 5-stars on that defensive line that have not played that much but are sort of coming into their own. So I think they're going to be deep on the defensive line. Again, unproven early, but I like what I see there. Linebacker, I think, is going to be better because they're healthier. Arion Carter's a year older, same with Jeremiah Thielander. Yeah, I mean, the big question is what are they going to do at corner because Jermod McCoy is going to be out for a while with that ACL. All the early reviews is that Colton Hood is really good. Is exactly what they wanted him to be. The corner out of Colorado. He was like Travis Hunter's backup last year at Colorado. They like him a lot. Ricky Gibson's out with a minor injury. He'll be fine. If you got Gibson on one side and Hood on the other at corner, and you're waiting for Jermod McCoy to come back, I think you can at least feel like you're solid back there. And, again, if you're solid on the back end and really good on the front, I think you feel good about that defense.
Boo Carter was a big headline. Going into camp, Heupel literally led his press conference to open up fall camp with it, talking about having to earn his way back onto the field. And it sounds like yesterday he was a full participant for the first time in practice. Are you at all surprised that after an off season of being, as some described it, unplugged from the program, that disconnect there between he and teammates, are you surprised it took 1 week for Boo Carter to get back on the practice field?
I think the over/under would probably be about a week, maybe 10 days. And so I guess if you went on the under, you hit it. I mean, he had been ostracized, sort of excluded from the team for a week. It's weird to say, but I think embarrassment was almost part of the punishment. I mean, he had to run a lot and do a lot of conditioning that I know he did. We didn't see. He went to the Children's Hospital here 3 days in a row, I think it was last week, sort of give him a perspective, remind him about, how privileged he is to play college football in the SEC. But a lot of it, it seemed like embarrassment was a lot of it. I mean, we would see him do stretching and all that, and then sort of just go off into the corner while his teammates went through drills. They would go outside. He would have to stay inside with the injured players. So I think embarrassment was a lot of it. I think that it maybe hit home. I don't know. But even now when you watch them in drills, he's the best of the nickels that they have and one of the best players on defense that he has. But he's doing drills behind the walk-ons. So he's last in line. And so it'll be a gradual process. I would expect he probably would not start the Syracuse game, but he'll probably play. And this will be a gradual process to sort of get him in till, Georgia is week 3. I would think he would be back, a full-fledged guy and maybe a starter by then. We'll just see how the season goes, though.
Adam Sparks of Knox News with us. So to the point of him playing offense, which obviously was a big sticking point for him through spring ball, got to practice there. How far away does that feel now as he's just now getting work on the practice field again and you make these projections about when he might even be able to see the game field? How distant does getting reps on offense seem once again for Boo Carter?
It seems pretty far right now. I mean, I think he'll probably, if he behaves himself and all those sort of things during the season, I think he'll probably end up on offense, at least for a handful of plays, some kind of package during the season. Never know how things are going to go, but if they like what they have in practice and they need him to catch 3 balls against Alabama in October, I'm sure they'll do that. But it does seem more distant now than it did. I mean, so much of the narrative of the offseason was that Boo Carter was pushing to be on offense more than Tennessee was pushing him on offense. Not to say that was 100% and 0%, but it seemed more like Boo Carter was pushing for that more than Tennessee was. And now that he is the guy that's sort of being penalized now for missing workouts and team activities in the summer, he doesn't really have leverage as much to push for that or to ask for that. So I think if and when he does play offense, it will be Tennessee's Josh Heupel's. It'll be him making the decision and not as much trying to do something that that Boo Carter necessarily would be lobbying for. I just don't think he has much power right now to ask for anything.
You mentioned your confidence in the offensive line. What does that shuffling look like at the moment on the interior, especially at that center spot that seemed like it was up for grabs going into camp to replace Cooper Mays?
Yeah, I mean, center's going to be Sam Pendleton, the Notre Dame transfer, or it's going to be William Satterwhite, the redshirt freshman. I would lean a little towards Sam Pendleton. I mean, Satterwhite started with the ones at the beginning of camp, but it's a funny thing. I asked Glenn Ellerby, the O-line coach, the other day about how much, after all of like the snapping and blocking and IDing and all those sort of things that go into center, like after that, how important are the intangibles of the position, the leadership, the reliability, all these sort of things. And he said the intangibles are a big part of it. And to me, that was a hint that Sam Pendleton is in the lead right now. Sam Pendleton feels like a Cooper Mays. He feels like a Glenn Ellerby type guy. I mean, Sam Pendleton was on campus for less than a month, I'd say, and he was already sort of leading that room. There's just a lot to that in that body language. And it also makes it a little easier to start Pendleton at center because they love Jesse Perry. And Jesse Perry, the Murfreesboro kid, Middle Tennessee Christian School. Jesse Perry, they love him at right guard. If he can play there, then they have the option to have Pendleton at center. If they put Pendleton at guard, then they'll have to be confident in Satterwhite. So it's still an open competition at center, but Jesse Perry being really good at right guard, I think, opens up more options. That's for sure with them. The only question there is if Jesse Perry is your right guard, and we already know David Sanders, the freshman, is going to be your right tackle. That means your left side is going to be veteran Wendell Moy and Lance Hurd, and your right side are going to be really, really, really young guys. And so that's something they have to consider.
Yeah, and David Sanders Jr. being thrown into the fire, the 5-star freshman in 2025. Is there another player, Adam, that comes to mind? I know it's early throughout the course of fall camp, but that you just think to yourself, if Tennessee is going to perform above expectation, whatever that might be for people this year, this player has to give them something that we're maybe not talking about as much.
Ethan Davis, the tight end. They've been going at least 2 tight ends deep the past few years. Miles Kitzelman is back. He's going to be really good, but they have to have a second tight end. Ethan Davis, it's his time to slide into that spot. He's looked great in camp. It's even more of a contrast when you watch the passing drills, pass receiver drills, that, again, you'll see a few drops with the receivers. You see 0 drops out of the tight ends, and Ethan Davis looks the part. I mean, we've joked around a lot of times at practice saying, like, why don't you just move Ethan Davis to wideout? He played wideout in high school. Just go ahead and do that and get it over with. But I think you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of 2 tight ends, and Ethan Davis is going to be as much of a target, I think, as possibly some of the wide receivers. And so far he looks the part, which is really good.
Hasn't that felt like the discourse around Ethan Davis, Adam, for the last 2 years now, right? Like, this is the year. I feel like he has been at the top of that list for that question that I just asked you now for a couple of seasons.
Yeah, and they've brought in transfers that have sort of come in and jumped over him. There's not another transfer there. Now, they brought in 2 really good freshmen, and I think those guys may play too. But it's sort of boom or bust now. I mean, the funny thing is he had a really good rapport with Nico, and that just never made itself to the field that much. And now Joey Aguilar comes in, which, by the way, has a really good rapport with Miles Kitzelman. But, you know, it's a necessity type thing. They got to have tight ends that can catch. Ethan Davis is their most athletic tight end. He looks really good in camp. Whoever the quarterback is knows that. They see that the receivers are hurt. They see Ethan Davis catches everything they throw to him. And so I would expect he's going to be a pretty viable target in this offense.
A lot of questions still in fall camp. Adam Sparks joining us as he often does. Didn't even lead with Blurgate, Adam. I mean, that's already died down. How much did that dominate your inbox, your social media feed? As we have, I think we have put that to rest at this point, that it was an injured tight end in Miles Kitzelman and not a quarterback that threw a pick.
Yeah, when I saw it, I rolled my eyes a little bit. I mean, he was blurred, but I was thinking, what do we do? It seems like only at Tennessee that kind of thing ends up being a storyline. I have found over the years that, like, if one of those weird viral things happens, don't respond to it, let itself play out, and it'll go away in 24 hours. But it's only at Tennessee do you have some kind of controversy about a guy blurred out in the background of a clip.
Hoping it makes next year's Any Given Saturday, if we get one. So, Adam Sparks of Knox News. Appreciate the time as always, Adam.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good one.
You too. At Adam Sparks on Twitter is where you can follow him and his news and information at knoxnews.com. We are sitting here 3 weeks out. 3 weeks out from kickoff, week 1 in Atlanta for Tennessee against Syracuse. Of course, you'll be able to hear the whole season right here on The Zone. An extension announced with the Vol Network for years to come. Mike Keith and Ramon Foster right here on The Zone calling Tennessee football. Excited about that news yesterday. I always appreciate Adam giving some time. You know, Robert, I wish that college programs could do joint practices. Because, and they're trying to do it a little bit with spring ball, right? We had Dion and Fran Brown in the offseason campaigning to get a Colorado/Syracuse spring game. But there's some juice, it seems, coming out of Tampa between Titans and Bucs. I wish we had that. I would love to see what that would look like in the college game.
Oh, okay. So you're cool with joint camp practices for colleges, but when I pitched you tag team matches for college football last night, you were not a fan of that.
So what you pitched me is college football teams coming together? Like
yes.
2 college football teams playing another 2 college football teams.
Yes. So it could be Oregon and Oregon State taking on Miami of Ohio and Ohio State. And you were like, nah, I don't think you're going to get a lot of support.
You're not going to get a lot.
It's not a real thing. It's injuries turned off. It is fake. But for the pride of Ohio and the pride of Oregon to take each other on for bragging rights, that would be fun. That would be a fun experiment. That's all I'm saying. It could be a joint camp practice for all I care. But with the thing I told you, you were like just so dismissive of. We talk about the most ridiculous things all the time, and you don't want to even entertain the idea in this fictional world of college football tag team matches. You couldn't see the idea where, Guy, I'm sorry, I'm talking to you like you're Buck. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, just reflex.
You couldn't see the value in that. And when I started texting you about it, you didn't even respond to me. I was like,
I'm sorry, I was in a movie.
He doesn't see the vision.
I was in a movie.
He doesn't see the vision. He doesn't understand. Who would Tennessee's tag team partner be to take on North Carolina and App State?
Oh, man.
Who would there for Virginia and Richmond and Tennessee and Memphis? Who would be Tennessee's tag team partner? Who is going to come out and help them in the Saturday night's main event before the big pay-per-view on the weekend? That's what a tag team match is.
I don't know. I'd like to see Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Can we put Diego Pavia next to calling Tennessee players as teammates for a hot minute after watching him yesterday on Netflix or whenever you watched it?
I could be cool with that. I would be cool with that because then you would have a little inner turmoil. You know what I mean? You'd have a little bit of, are they going to be able to make this work? Are the unlikely bed partners when like the superpowers came together, the Macho Man and Hulk Hogan, or the Mega Powers, and they touched brother for the first time? That was an unlikely tag team and it ended up imploding. That's what would happen with Vanderbilt and Tennessee.
I don't know. I think it could get messy. And it feels like things are getting messy between Titans and Bucs at joint practice. We have updates on the other side right here on 104.5 The Zone. Titans and Bucs wrapping up joint practice. We'll see if they call it early because things have gotten chippy down in Tampa. And we're going to hear from Cam Ward, meeting with the media coming up at 11. Buck will check in at noon. He is down there, boots on ground, as there have been multiple skirmishes at this point, just trying to sort through exactly how many and what that's looked like. Seems as though there has been at least one bench clearing. I don't want to say brawl because that makes it sound probably a little more serious than it was.
Fracas.
Fracas is great. Kerfuffle, let's say. At least one of those where you're talking about coaches and refs having to run in there and break everybody up. One rep with Jeffrey Simmons and Cody Mock. A one-on-one where Mock seems to get the better of Jeff and then kind of throws him to the ground and then tempers flair. And even Jarvis Brownlee Jr. getting into it with a Bucs fan and having to be held back sounds extreme, but, you know.
Somebody else tried to steal his helmet.
Pulled back, maybe. What is going on with Jarvis Brownlee Jr. and these fans out here?
It feels like he's just got a rock in his shoe. You know what I mean? He's looking for a reason to be upset about something.
Now, Graham Barton also getting into it with Jeffrey Simmons, it would seem. A local guy, Ravenwood High School, drafted by the Buccaneers out of Duke. So a lot of juice, I guess. I'm fully prepared to hear everybody, Buck, that was lamenting the lack of urgency in the first couple weeks of Titans practice, that there's no juice, there's no fire, turning around and saying that they were wasting time and that they weren't getting any serious work in because of the juice that comes with fights in a practice. There's a middle ground there somewhere, but I feel like people are either on one side or another, and there's no winning in that scenario. But they're out there. They're scrapping. They are getting some work in, and I know this has made the rounds. Cam Ward, first play of the 2-minute drill, threw a pick to Hassan Reddick, trying to throw a slant. Hassan Reddick, the Bucs pass rusher. And we'll get more details on that on the other side. It sounds like Titans quarterbacks got the better of the Bucs defense in 7-on-7s, but in terms of the team stuff, I feel like there's a little bit of give and take there with some mistakes from the Titans rookie quarterback, as expected, going up against the defense of Todd Bowles. That's going to throw more at him than he has seen so far, going up against what Denard Wilson has been scheming for him at Titans training camp. Here's a quick succession note from Paul Kaharski. Cam Ward, 3 plays from the 12-yard line. Touchdown to Bryce Oliver, touchdown to Chimere Dike, who spiked it in celebration. So some good, some bad. Buck just now tweeting that Jeffrey Simmons just, quote, victimized a poor Bucs running back in a low red zone play after Mike Evans caught a touchdown on the previous play. And then going back to the Chimere Dike touchdown catch, a toe drag in the back of the end zone from Cam Ward.
I was also looking at the Tampa Bay side of things. Pewter Report putting up a couple of updates here. Quarterback Kyle Trask holds the ball too long and has been sacked by Titans outside linebacker Jahad Ward, which they recently added, I believe, last week to the roster.
Maybe 2 weeks ago. But
J.J. Roberts jumps in front of a Brandon Allen pass to make a nice PBU. Baker Mayfield finds Mike Evans in the right corner of the end zone for a touchdown. He caught that over Amani Hooker. And then I thought this was funny. I think we just saw a literal walk-off touchdown for Mike Evans in the red zone period. He caught the ball in the corner of the end zone and legitimately did not stop running. He may be inside by now.
Okay, so it sounds like things have settled in just a little bit after a very, testy start to practice.
Let me give you one more because I know the fans are clamoring to hear this guy's name. Titans quarterback Tim Boyle finds wide receiver Xavier Restrepo. Oh, yeah, you thought it was Tim Boyle? Tim Boyle's the name they wanted to hear?
Oh, yeah. No, I thought you were doing a thing there. By the way, before you get to the Restrepo play, I have to give a hat tip to Terry McCormick, who said to me on the sideline yesterday, they should just let Tim Boyle. And it took me a while to put together that was just Boyle replacing Cook. I liked it.
Are we in the Twilight Zone right now? Do you not remember me making this joke when they signed him and you and Buck both groaned at me?
You did. No, I'm pretty sure I liked it.
I'm upset that me and Terry McLaurin, or not Terry McLaurin, that me and Terry have the same kind of humor. So finds Xavier Restrepo for a touchdown. It was a clean route by Restrepo, who created plenty of separation on Bucs cornerback Bryce Hall, which I think is a former Virginia player drafted by the Jets. I am correct. Okay.
All right, so they're settling in. They're getting some good work in. It sounds like Cam Ward has bounced back in red zone drills, which was a point of struggle last week, I would say, at Titans practice, after running into some struggles early on in 2-minute team drills down in Tampa Bay. So, again, we'll get more detailed practice reports on that. And this is kind of, again, just bird's eye, getting what we're getting, updates from people that are down there watching practice in Tampa. This is kind of what I hope to see. Some good, some bad, some give and take, no overall domination on one side or the other against a Bucs team that is looking for a fourth straight NFC South championship. Because these are the practices that I feel like can leave us as informed as we can be at the end of training camp, right? Like, we scold Titans fans all the time about not overreacting to a training camp practice one way or another, whether it's Cam Ward throwing 3 picks or whether it's Cam Ward yesterday, where he was excellent in the 2-minute, marching the offense down the field, scoring on a touchdown pass to Tyler Lockett. But I think it is okay to kind of take the starting point of where your expectation is for a team going into training camp and then adjust it with new information that comes down, right? And then wherever that point ends up at the end of camp, it could be totally off the mark from what actually happens in the season. But I think it's okay to let training camp joint practices somewhat influence your expectations of the football team. With that said, I don't know that anything that's happened down in Tampa is greatly influencing what we think of the Titans. Like, the regular Titans fan probably has that starting point of an expectation in that 5 to 6 win range. Over under in Vegas is 5.5 wins. I think it's right there. If you're a little more optimistic, maybe you're going up towards 7. If you're a little pessimistic, maybe you're going even further down. But what we've heard so far is kind of exactly what I was hoping to hear out of Bucs joint practice. There was no scenario in which the Titans were going to go down there and just boss the Bucs around at their facility. I think there was a scenario where the Titans got down there and it was pretty one-sided towards Tampa after a couple weeks of Cam Ward practicing against a pass rush that doesn't have a ton of juice right now, right? And certain weaknesses that it's hard to figure out exactly what your strengths and weaknesses are when you're playing against yourselves as opposed to playing the Bucs, who have a strong wide receiver group, who have a better pass rushing core than the Titans, who have a strong cornerback room, a good interior of their defensive line, as do the Titans. So that test feels like it has been very give and take today in practice. And that's what I want to hear. We'll see if Buck echoes that sentiment, and we'll see if Cam Ward echoes that sentiment, because he will speak to the media, and you'll hear from your rookie quarterback coming up next on 104.5 The Zone.
I don't know if I just heard more of a leaf blower or Ramon Foster in that promo, but we're going to work on that. Anyway, Trajan Wealth is somebody that will help you work on your financial wherewithal. If you are somebody who's feeling some level of insecurity about your finances, or you've experienced that before, you know how uncomfortable it can be and how important that financial independence that everybody is seeking is to your peace of mind. Trajan Wealth is here to help you through that process, whether it's wealth management, retirement planning, or strategic investments. They can put you in position to succeed. If you're interested in wealth management that's designed to protect, maintain, and expand your financial portfolio, Trajan Wealth understands the importance of those tactical investments and tailored insights for growth in line with your level of risk tolerance. So call Trajan Wealth today to learn more about the strategies that can put you in position to succeed. 2 locations here in Middle Tennessee, Brentwood and Franklin. Their number is 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000, or visit them online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement.
11 o'clock on the dot. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I am Robert Walsh. A little bit of roster news for the Titans as they placed offensive lineman Chandler Brewer on injured reserve and signed defensive end Joe Gaziano. Gaziano had been a rotational player for most of his career, only one sack, but has played in 26 games over 5 seasons. Titans at joint camp with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today. Buck Rising has boots on the ground, and he will bring a Titans player for us to talk to at 12:20. We've got a Cam Ward presser coming up momentarily after this update. Preseason officially starts tonight, though, with a 3-game slate. Colts take on the Ravens with Anthony Richardson starting at quarterback. That game is at 6. At 6:30, Joe Burrow and the Bengals take on the defending national champion, Super Bowl champion Eagles, and followed that with Pete Carroll's revenge game as the Raiders take on the Seahawks at 9. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. Back to the Buck Rising Show on 104.5 The Zone.
Cam Ward getting ready to step up to the podium following joint practice between Titans and Bucs down in Tampa ahead of Saturday's preseason opener, which you can hear, of course, right here on The Zone. Kickoff at 6:30. Titans countdown hitting the air at 5:30. Of course, the Lee Company countdown to kickoff will walk you up to network pregame, and football season is here. We've got skirmishes, tempers flaring at joint practice. We've got interception reports, touchdown reports, and red zone drills from Cam Ward, and we're going to unpack all of it when Buck joins the show in hour 3. As Robert said, you will hear from Buck and a Titans player that is TBD coming up at 12:20. But I will say, as we await Cam Ward, who is scheduled to speak right at 11 or just after practice, reports have kind of gone dark, so I don't know if practice has concluded, if they're getting any extra work in. If you're just joining us, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We're also on 104.5 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Here's sort of the summary of what we've picked up on to this point. One-on-ones, individual stuff, at least as it pertains to Titans quarterback and receivers against Bucs defensive backs, a little bit sloppy. Not exactly what you want to see. There were some wins on the Titans' end. Calvin Ridley with a couple of nice wins at the line of scrimmage. Saw a couple from Alec Iomanner as well. Things really started to get chippy, it seems like, on the defensive line individual stuff, or defensive versus offensive line, particularly between Cody Mock and Jeffrey Simmons, and Graham Barton and Jeffrey Simmons. Unsurprising that Jeffrey Simmons involved in those. There was an instance of Jarvis Brownlee Jr. jawing with a fan, a Bucs fan, that was in attendance at joint camp. Joint practice, I should say, had to be kind of pulled back onto the practice field by various officials. There was an all-out team skirmish that had benches clearing. Cam Ward threw an interception right out of the gates. Team drills, 2-minute drill. Hassan Reddick dropping to pick off a slant route. It sounds like, and I guess Buck will correct me if I'm wrong, things settled a little bit after that. And it wasn't as volatile, I will say, with the off-field stuff. And they were able to get some good work in. And that the Titans found some success on offense in the red zone drills with a couple of touchdowns, one to rookie Chimere Dike on a toe-tapped touchdown catch in the back of the end zone. Again, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. What are you hoping to hear out of joint practice between Titans and Bucs? This is the only one they're going to get. Tomorrow's a walkthrough day ahead of the preseason game. Next week, they will get 2 full joint practices against the Atlanta Falcons. Robert, to you, is today against the Bucs a slam dunk better challenge for Cam Ward to be tested against that Bucs defense as opposed to the Falcons defense next week?
I would 100% say so. I don't know if you can extrapolate this to mean they have a good defense, but I always like looking at teams and how much of their roster is made up of guys they drafted versus guys they went out and signed. But if you look at that Bucs defense, at least the starters on there is only one player who they did not draft that is scheduled to start on that defense, and that's the man who picked off Cam Ward and Hassan Reddick.
Yeah.
So I think they have a great developmental system for players. I think they have a good retention system where they pay their own guys. If you look at their cornerback room with Jamil Dean and Zion McCollum, well, they haven't paid Zion yet, but you understand what I'm saying. I think this is a good test to him, but I'm not going to overreact to what happens at this camp. I am going to 100% overreact to what happens in this game on Saturday.
Again, 6:30, the kickoff Saturday night. Hassan Reddick, about to turn 31 in this Bucs defense. Obviously, he had the highly publicized dispute with the New York Jets, where he ended up playing last year. He played 10 games, ended up eating a ton in fine money. 1 sack in 10 games, had 2 starts for the Jets, and then he goes down to Tampa. But to your point, they've built this defense the right way, right? They've built their defense in the way that the Titans are trying to build their football team. Draft, develop, retain. You're playing 2 NFC South, or practicing against 2 NFC South opponents with a defensive-minded head coach, with Todd Bowles in Tampa, Raheem Morris in Atlanta. But I agree with you. I think this Bucs defense will throw more at Cam Ward. It seems like it has thrown more at Cam Ward than what they might get going up against Raheem Morris and the Falcons. And we'll see how that plays out in the preseason game. I tend to think, though, that the work you get in joint practice carries a little more value than the preseason game. Just in terms of who you might be matched up against, and if coaches feel like they got enough good work in and they have a good enough sample size, maybe that affects who they do or don't play in the preseason game.
And I don't disagree with you that the work may be better, but I think for our point of extrapolating data from it about like when guys come in, who they play well against in a game sense is where I would get more information, at least from my uneducated football brain. Like watching drills, I don't understand. Oh, he was supposed to have an outside release there. Oh, he messed up the release. I can't see that. I'm not smart enough. I have not watched or learned enough about football. But what I can see is like, okay, they put Joey Chestnut in the game over Mullings.
Yeah.
Like he went in the game before he did. So are they valuing Mullings more by wanting to protect him? That's what
Julius Chestnut.
What did I say? Did I say Joey Chestnut? I'm going to call him Joey Chestnut until the end of time. But that's what I'm saying.
One day, hopefully, Julius Chestnut can be as good at what he does as Joey Chestnut is at what he does.
He would be the most famous Sacred Heart member of all time. Very excited to see a number of matchups, but I am just drawn back to this fight that went on. If you're out there listening right now and you want to have a nice laugh and you're wondering who in their right mind would pick a fight with Jeffrey Simmons, who in the hell would want to face that guy, especially looking as lean as he is? Look up a picture of Cody Mauch and maybe put smiling in the search, especially if you're driving. If you're on the highway right now, whip that phone out and search it. I don't even care if you're both hands on the wheel. This man looks like someone who eats rocks. Looks like someone who would pull over for good roadkill. Looks like someone who has a well in the backyard that his kids draw on chalk. He looks like my older brother. He really looks like somebody I'm related to.
He looks like a guy that would pick a fight with Jeffrey Simmons.
That would not be me. I would not be that dumb, but I could understand why he believes he would. I mean, it's not like you can get your teeth knocked out. You know,
That's true.
Your teeth are already
You're
gone.
ahead of the game.
That's how you know a dude has money like that and doesn't feel the need to go out and get some veneers, go out and get some white ivory to throw in his mouth. He's like, nah, I think I'll just rock the no denture adventure look.
Sends a message.
I just can't get enough of Cody Mauch. I was so upset that someone else didn't draft him. I was like, he's got to go to the NFC, of course. They get all the cool guards, man. They get all the cool guards. Ollie Marpet, him. Let us have some guards.
So all of the quote-unquote juice and fire that was lacking in the first 2 weeks of Titans training camp, I guess spilled out onto the field in Tampa. And, like, you're going to see some of that, especially in that first joint practice when both teams have just been practicing against one another. And it's the adage we hear every year, oh, we're ready to hit somebody else. But to a point, right? We've seen joint practices in the past that with the Titans that almost get wasted because of just the BS that just keeps spilling over, and you feel like you wasted a trip down there and the logistics of going to and from when you're trying to get good work in. It does sound like the Titans and Bucs settled into getting some legitimate work done at joint practice, and we'll hear more about it from Cam Ward, who I suppose will speak at any moment now. Again, I don't have any confirmation from anybody down there on whether or not, okay, there's the tweet from Buck. That's a wrap. On joint camp with the Bucs, he said, fun, spirited, and pretty evenly matched. Cam Ward at the podium next. So that's what you want to hear, right? Like, Robert, that would be just that little summation, that one sentence. Fun, spirited, and evenly matched is best case scenario for me
100%.
on what you want to get out of this one joint practice with the Bucs. Because the idea of the Titans going down there and just dominating, running all over the Bucs, Cam Ward dicing up a defense that he's never seen, one of the most aggressive in the NFL in Todd Bowles' defense, it just wasn't going to happen. That wasn't in the cards. You either had an evenly matched, spirited practice in the Bucs or a dominant practice from the Bucs. It doesn't sound like the latter happened. Sounds like it was more of the former. It is officially over. So as we await Cam Ward, why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break. When we come back, the rookie quarterback will be at the podium right here on 104.5 The Zone. Joint practice between Titans and Bucs has wrapped in Tampa. And Titans rookie quarterback Cam Ward is getting ready to step up to the podium after what has been described as a pretty fiery but evenly matched day of work between Titans and Bucs. Welcome back. I'm Lucas Panzica. Buck Rising will join us in hour 3 for his reaction after taking in practice. Robert Walsh and I with you until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. In fact, the work was valuable enough for Bucs head coach Todd Bowles that he said after practice that won't be a lot of starters playing for Tampa in Saturday's preseason game. Now, Brian Callahan was asked about this the other day. In fact, Robert, before we get to Cam Ward, can we hear from Brian Callahan on his plan for Cam and Titans starters on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to play. Our starters are going to play. We're going to play in all 3 preseason games. That's just like we did last year, similar process. The joint practices do change a little bit of how much, you kind of gauge how physical the practice is and how much those guys might need, but they're going to play in every game, and we're going to let Cam play. So he's going to be on the field playing football. Hard to say how much at the moment. We'll work through that as we get to the practice tomorrow, but I would imagine for sure a series and maybe 2 in the first game with the starters, so he'll play.
In every game, Brian Callahan says, including this Saturday night. So good day of work for Titans and Bucs, and we'll hear from the quarterback momentarily. Quickly, before we hear from Cam and maybe look ahead to some of the preseason games that are happening tonight and who is and isn't starting, we would be remiss to go any further without wishing a very happy birthday to one Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio.
Happy birthday to him.
We love you.
We do care.
Good luck.
We do care. A legend around these parts, Coach Mack, and in other places as well. Another coaching legend celebrates a birthday today. I didn't realize that Coach Mack shared a birthday with Lee Corso. A happy 90th birthday to Lee Corso.
Happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
2 legends right there in coaching and media. So Corso 90, Coach Mack, I want to say 38.
I think that's correct. Yes, 38.
Maybe 39.
He's only 6 years my elder, so that would make sense.
I think Coach Mack only ages a year every 8 years.
It's kind of like 100% he's in dog years, where like he when Coach Mack is genuinely 150, he will only be someone do the quick math on that.
Also, we get Coach Mack all season on Titans Radio. Love that. We don't get Lee Corso much longer. Hey, we're getting there. We're going to be saying goodbye to Lee Corso in week 1.
Oh, I thought you meant he was going to die.
Oh, no.
We don't get Lee Corso
I'm not
for
trying
much
to do
longer.
that.
Put an expiration date on him.
Poor phrasing on my part.
How long has this condiment been in my fridge? Oh, it's Lee Corso age? Throw it out.
No, well, if it's Lee Corso age, then there's some chemical in there. But the dude's 90 years old, and we say goodbye to Corso on the game day set, week 1. That Ohio State-Texas game, which could be a number 1 versus number 2 matchup in week 1.
What a way to go with his boots on. They're just going to... All right, Lee, thanks. As he, floats off into sportscaster heaven, angel wings adorned,
I'm not prepared for that moment. I'm not prepared for, A, the last mascot head moment with Lee Corso, and B, just how broke down Kirk Herbstreit's going to be next to him. And everybody's going to be a wreck watching that in 3 weeks. It's right around the corner.
It's unfortunate because it seemed so easy to me, when Pat McAfee first started in the media, to be like, oh, yeah, Pat, he's a character. He could be the Lee Corso replacement. And now that it's time for Lee Corso to, go and the replacement to take his spot, it's I don't want him to
No, it is time, though. I mean, it's beyond
is
time.
But, I'm not ready for it. I don't want to see Pat do the same shtick or whoever ends up in that spot to be the character to do the same shtick.
Lee Corso, very much alive, as much as you can question continuing to put him on television at this age. But it will be a tearful goodbye. I'm glad that they're letting him ride off into the sunset in College game day. So happy birthday, Coach Mack. Happy birthday, Coach Corso. Cam Ward, I'm assuming, is getting some extra reps in after practice, which has concluded. But while we await the Titans rookie quarterback, some preseason games happening tonight. Preseason openers across 3 different NFL markets tonight. We've got Colts at Ravens, 6 p.m. on NFL Network. Bengals at Eagles at 6:30. Raiders at Seahawks at 9 p.m. Geno Smith is playing in that game.
Ooh.
As Geno...
It's a Geno Smith revenge game as well.
Yes. Geno and Pete Carroll going back up to Seattle. Colts-Ravens, though, catches our eye for obvious reasons. Obviously, Robert Walsh. Watching the Ravens, your team, going up against the Colts, where Anthony Richardson's going to get the start tonight. And I want to say it's the only or at the quarterback position on any depth chart in the NFL right now. Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson listed as the co-starters, so to speak, on the Colts depth chart. I am excited to watch the Colts in the preseason because we don't get this. Preseason games determine these starting competitions all over the place at various positions. Almost never does it happen at the quarterback position, the starting quarterback position. So I am looking forward to watching the Colts this preseason to see how preseason performances from Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson affect this QB battle. Understanding that Richardson winning the job and playing well is the best case scenario for the Colts this year, and he gets the start tonight against the Ravens. How serious are the Ravens taking this in terms of who they're playing on defense tonight against AR?
I wouldn't say completely serious. I would imagine you would see kind of a scarecrow crew of the notable Ravens. No Lamar, no Derek, none of the cast of characters that you're used to. But I do think they're taking it serious in the form of looking at the bottom of their roster, and you would get a A1 opportunity to look at your second team and third team defense against someone who is thought of as potentially being a starter in the NFL. I would imagine Daniel Jones would come in the second half with the second team. So your whole second and third team defense is going to get a look at two quarterbacks who are starting caliber. I think that's what the Ravens will take seriously. Shane Steichen talked earlier this week talking about how AR is going to get the start in this game. Daniel Jones would get the start in the second week. He also made the note of don't read too much into who's getting the first start. Just because Anthony Richardson is starting this week does not mean that he is ahead in the quarterback competition. So that caveat tells me that there is not a line drawn in the sand yet. It is a even battle, as I would imagine, even though there is definitely a rooting interest on their part for AR to work out, but also a job-saving interest where if Daniel Jones is going to play better than him, you might as well play him to try to save your job.
And reports about Richardson have been positive early on in camp. You take it with a grain of salt. Derek on the F&M Bank chat says, legit excited to watch Anthony Richardson flail tonight. You can hang out with us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. So we see Anthony Richardson start tonight for the Colts at quarterback. The Bengals in action tonight. Preseason opener at the Eagles, and they will play starters. For really the first time in the Zach Taylor era, we're going to see Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and company starting for the Bengals in this preseason game. I go back to something Jamar Chase said during the offseason program, maybe in March, May, something like that, where he had a comment about not playing in the preseason, and he sort of nodded to these terrible starts to seasons the Bengals have had. It feels like there has been kind of a movement from players in the Bengals locker room trying to figure out why they've been so poor to start seasons. 5 out of 6 years in the Zach Taylor era, Robert, have they started 0-2 or worse. 2021, the only exception, where they had an overtime victory in week 1, I believe, against the Seahawks. I might be mistaken. But these poor starts have stacked on top of themselves for the Bengals. And finally, and granted, some of that has been injury, and Joe Burrow's had injured starts to seasons. I remember the calf injury to start the year a couple years ago. But Zach Taylor finally is going to roll out his starters, and we'll see if it makes any difference for the Bengals when they kick off the regular season.
I think it's also notable that you mentioned the injuries for Joe Burrow, because if Cordero Volson isn't able to keep his left guard starting position, 3/5 of their offensive line will be new members of this line. Where Amarius Mims, I'm counting him as a new member because he didn't get to play a lot last year due to injury, but where you've got a battle at left guard going on, they brought in a new right guard. You've still got old-ass Ted Karras at center and obviously Orlando Brown Jr. at left tackle. It would behoove them to give themselves a good option at offensive line to see what they have. And going against the Philadelphia Eagles, who I believe also, at least if my memory serves correctly, last year played starters. I wonder if they would duplicate that or replicate that this year. You would get a great challenge in going against Philadelphia Eagles defensive line that is nothing to scoff at.
Bengals open the season in Cleveland, week 1. Their first 2 games of the season at the Cleveland Browns and hosting the Jacksonville Jags.
That's a little odd. I do not like a week 1 opponent being a division opponent. I think division opponents should be saved for middle to end of the season, but that's just me. And Cam Ward is at the podium.
Let's hear from the Titans quarterback.
We got some good work versus a good team.
As an offense, how much better did you feel it got after that?
Real better. We way better just in terminology, just in communicating with each other up front in the receiver room, them seeing what I see on the field. And I just think the more reps that we get, which we're getting now, the better it's going to become game time as we get into the season.
How good was it to be able to face a defense that doesn't know what you're doing? Like Cody Barton, he had the interception, he knew where the ball was going. You're not facing a team that did that today.
I think it's real good. This is one of the best defenses out there in the league. So, they gave us some good work. They stopped us a couple of times. We had some explosives on them. So, I think both groups today got better.
Tyler talked about the plan being trying to take what they give you. They're a typical team to figure out shots at games. How much do you feel like you stuck to that and were successful with that?
I think as a whole, 1s, 2s, and 3s, we stuck to that the whole day. Just taking what they give us. BA, Tim making plays when they're in. And then me just sticking to the game plan, trying to stay above the chains. Not trying to do too much unless I have to, and then just put the ball in the receiver's hands, let them make plays.
Is it frustrating ever to not be able to take one, or you just kind of know?
It's not really frustrating because at the end of the day, it's going to happen. It's just about when it happens. You can't force it. You just got to let it come to you.
How many of those guys?
Oh, yeah, it is starting to click. And it's really just coming with more reps that I get, seeing different looks and knowing where the ball needs to go versus certain look. And then I also got, good receiving core with Red, Van, and Lockett, even the backups and Chim. They help me out a lot just watching film with me, letting them know what I see on the field and where I need them to get to. So, I'm excited to where we're going to go, and I'm just ready to keep building this relationship we got.
How many guys on that team do you know, and what are they saying during and maybe after?
Talking about the Bucs?
Right.
I knew a couple. I knew of a couple. I never met them in person till now. Got a chance to chop it up with Tez, one of the receivers. But I mean, that's a good group right there. The Bucs, they're a playoff team. We trying to get to a playoff team this year. Hopefully, if the time comes to it, we'll get a chance to play them in a real game this year.
Have they told you how many series you might play on Saturday?
No, I'm listening to Coach Callahan. I'm ready to play the whole time if I need to. But this is also a big evaluation, not only for myself but for the whole team. I'm ready to make plays when my number's called.
How excited are you for that opportunity to get out there for the first time, like the real stuff?
I'm real excited to just be on the grass again, to just really put everything that I worked for out there, and just try to lead my teammates and try to get a win out there.
How are things coming along for you as far as that process of finding out what you can and can't get away with and just getting used to the timing?
It's coming along fast. And then especially me with Coach Callahan one-on-one, him letting me know what I can get away with, then also what I can't get away with, and more of it's just the time you get away with it, whether it's third down, whether you're flush out the pocket, you have to make a play. I think that's the biggest adjustment that I'm focused on right now is just really trying to stay above the sticks.
Did you have any learning moments from today, like where you found out, hey, I can do this?
Yeah, I would say just not necessarily the windows, but you have to throw guys open in certain route concepts if it's not the perfect look. But the receivers did a hell of a job today, from starters to backups. Those boys, they came out here in this weather and they competed. They had a good one-on-ones. They carried it to 7-on-7 in team, so I'm proud of the receivers and how they helped us.
How'd you rate the one-on-ones overall? Seemed like there were some balls on the ground.
Oh, yeah, we had a couple balls on the ground. By myself, I had a bad ball where the receiver wasn't able to catch it all the way, where the DB made a good play. But both sides, we were competing all day. And just from a physicality standpoint, that's who we want to be. I think the receivers really brought that today.
No X, obviously.
What happened from your vantage point on the pick, and just kind of what did the coaches say to you, or what did you say to the huddle afterwards to respond and go back and do another 2 minutes after that?
I just got to respond. I tried to throw it around them. I didn't throw it far enough inside for Chi to get it. And then you got to be able to respond. Hold up the guys. And you say, next play. I'm going to have a pick in a real game. Nobody trips. It's all about how you respond for the next drive. You just got to keep playing football.
There's no X. What have you learned about Ellick and, I guess, Chim during the course of camp and even today?
I just think those two guys, not only are they fast for the size and how to get out of routes, Chim and Elliott, but they very two physical receivers. So especially Chim from the slot, you got to be a physical player to win whenever you're matching on a nickel or a linebacker. And then Elliott, I think just him being behind Reed right now is really helping him with his routes. He's gotten better since OTAs when I first got a chance to throw to him. Those two guys, they're going to come up big for us this year, and I'm happy that, I'm playing with them and not against them.
How do you think the chemistry is with them, with Lockett? Because it seems like you're in lockstep with Ridley. We know your pass with X, but those three receivers specifically, where are you at developing that chemistry, that timing with them?
I think we have a good time right now. I have a unbelievable relationship with those guys, especially off the field. Lockett, he sends me videos of stuff that he's like, how he's going to run his routes versus certain coverage and stuff. So I'm getting to know him a little bit more. And then I just think the younger guys, we're just ahead right now because we came in together. We've always been working out together. And Locke, he's been productive everywhere he's went. I mean, he's one of the most productive slots in football. And so he don't look like it, but that man's a dog. So I'm happy to have him on my team, and I know he's going to come up big for me this year.
You lean on him because of that veteran experience and all the stuff he's been through?
Yeah, for sure, especially just how he sees coverages. Him helping me out on what he sees from his alignment, because my alignment is really all about angles sometimes. How you have to throw the ball, you have to throw it away from defenders, and then just me getting reps with him on the non-timing routes, just seeing where he's going to end up and where I need to put the ball.
When you have a little skirmish like what happened today, do you know to get away? People told you can't get in the middle of anything like that?
They said it, but I'm hard-headed. So, it was good though. The defense they played their ass off today, and I'm happy. I get to play with those guys up there. So I mean, I'm excited. I'm glad we had one of those. Defense won that little thing right there, and so I'm happy that I got them on my team.
Did you have a target when you threw your aerial support in there?
Say that again.
Did you have a target when you threw your aerial support in
there? Yeah, I had a target. I was trying to hit one of them boys in red jersey. So, I mean, it was good. That's what football comes to. We dapped it up right after practice. Ain't no big deal. But I mean, I'm excited. The team I got their back. They're gonna have mine. And, might have another skirmish, but I know we're gonna be together.
What do you got to do this weekend to feel good about preseason game number 1?
I just think just playing our brand of football, physicality, running the ball good, throwing the ball good, then really just letting our players make plays. Me being a point guard, distributing the ball out there, then just really relying on the O-line and defensive line to set the game, set the tempo of the game, because at the end of the day, the trenches will always be what runs football.
All right, thanks, Cam.
Thank you.
Cam. All right, go Canes.
That's Cam Ward speaking with Titans media after joint practice between Titans and Bucs down in Tampa Bay. Short, quick, to the point. Cam Ward, efficient. Word economy is a strength of the Titans quarterback.
Yeah, no, when we're trying to stretch. They told us his presser was going to be at 11. He goes on at 11:26 and talks for 6 minutes. Come on.
Look, he's short, quick, to the point, man. And he talked about their best work today coming on the red zone work. I think that's an encouraging thing for Titans fans, where that was their biggest point of weakness, really, at this point. Let's say last week, after last weekend, red zone work had not been a strength for the Titans offense practicing against the Titans defense. Here's my favorite thing that we heard from Cam Ward today, and you heard it in an answer during that press conference where he talked about throwing that early interception to Hassan Reddick and bringing in his team. Just got to respond about the next one, about the next one, about the next one. We've said it from the jump in training camp. The area that I care about the most when watching and hearing about Cam Ward in these practices is, number one, hoping the mistakes happen. You want the mistakes to happen. You can't learn or move forward if they don't happen. So when they do happen, the very next sequence, what that looks like for the Titans quarterback, for me, is such a high level of importance, of priority. And I think back to last year, Robert, again, bringing back up the Titans-Seahawks joint practice, that practice ended with such a sour taste in our mouths because on the last play of practice, it happened to be the first play of Titans 2-minute drills against the Seahawks defense, and Levis throws a pick that in a game is probably going back for 6. Seahawks defenders are hooping and hollering. They're running over to Jamal Adams, handing him the ball. They're dancing all over the Titans practice field at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. And that's it. That's the end of practice. And I can understand the exercise of, look, you don't get another opportunity in a game. If that's it, that's your 2-minute drill to march down the field and win. You throw a pick, game's over. So you don't get that opportunity in practice. But it's not a game. It's practice. And Will Levis and the Titans offense didn't get that next opportunity. We didn't get to see how Levis would respond after that. We got to see it in the regular season, and the results weren't good. I don't bring that up to relitigate, the Titans' habits last year during training camp. I bring that up to say that was a huge point of emphasis, at least for me, coming into training camp. What happens on the very next sequence? Cam Ward got out there in 2 minutes and immediately threw the ball straight to Hassan Reddick, wearing a red Bucs practice jersey. And then what happened? Titans put out some of their best stuff that they've had in the red zone throughout the course of training camp against that Bucs defense. Those are the most encouraging points for me for Cam Ward throughout the course of camp. Doesn't mean the Titans will be a playoff team this year. But it's as encouraging a sign as you can have, I think, about your rookie quarterback who already is saying all the right things and saying them in the right way, and the disposition is something that you love and has all of these sort of X factors and checks all these boxes that you want when you're watching a quarterback talk at the podium. And that doesn't win you games, but that mentality that he displays, when it carries over to the practice field, that's what can get you excited. To me, that is what, when we were talking earlier about having that sort of starting point of expectation going into training camp for the Titans this season, and how that can get sort of adjusted and moved around, whether it's going down lower or higher based on the information you're seeing and receiving from training camp. That's the thing to me that can move that point of expectation a little bit higher up that line graph, so to speak, is watching that sort of response from your quarterback. Doesn't make your pass rush unit any better, right? Like it doesn't mean that a lot of these other weaknesses on the roster don't exist, because they do. And they're going to cost the Titans some games this year. But as we've talked about ad nauseum all offseason, 2025 for the Titans isn't about winning the AFC South. It's about Cam Ward. And what we saw and heard from Cam Ward today is a very encouraging thing to me with how he bounced back. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Alonzo on the F&M Bank chat says, Lucas Callahan was done with Levis after that interception. I don't think that's true. But again, that joint practice was an indicator of what the season was to come. That Seahawks-Titans practice last year. This Titans-Bucs practice, hopefully for the Titans, is an indicator of what's to come. Not a highly competitive football team, but competitive in terms of being in games. We brought up the comparison to the Panthers last season. Panthers won 5 games. Not a huge step up in the win column. But they won 5 games, and they did it especially at the end of the season, losing games, but losing them by a possession, losing them in overtime, rather than getting run off the field they were the year prior, and they did it seeing progress from their quarterback. That type of season, to me, is all any reasonable Titans fan is asking for 2025. Progress from the quarterback, competitive in games, understanding the shortcomings on the roster that will prevent you from being a highly competitive football team in 2025. And that's what these drafts down the road are for. But for right now, got to like what we're hearing from what's come out of Titans joint practice. I'm sure Buck will bring the mood down in the noon hour, and he'll join us at noon. But before that, let's get some NFL headlines next on 104.5 The Zone.
It's time for NFL Headlines with Lucas Panzica.
We're at that beautiful point in training camp where a lot of NFL headlines are simply who is and isn't playing in preseason games. We already read for you what we know about the Colts. Anthony Richardson starts tonight against the Ravens in Baltimore. Daniel Jones will come in after that as they continue to battle it out for the starting job. Also tonight, the Cincinnati Bengals are in action at the Eagles, and they're playing starters. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase and company in action as Cincinnati aims to avoid another slow start to the season. They have started 0-2 or worse in 5 of Zach Taylor's 6 seasons as the head coach in Cincy. Raiders and Seahawks round out tonight's action, 9 p.m. on NFL Network. Pete Carroll and Geno Smith heading back to Seattle, and Geno will be playing for the Las Vegas Raiders in their preseason opener. Of course, the Titans will have to wait until Saturday. We've already heard Cam Ward will play 1 to 2 series. Cam asked about it after joint practice with the Bucs and, just said it's up to Brian Callahan. Brian Callahan already told us he plans to play Cam Ward and really most Titan starters, it seems, in every game. Speaking of Titan starters, in the noon hour, we will hear Bucs conversation with James Williams, who it seems like is in the driver's seat for that starting linebacker spot next to Cody Barton, so stick around for that at noon. Meanwhile, Andy Reid says the plan is for Patrick Mahomes to play the entire first quarter of Saturday's preseason game against the Cardinals. And Andy Reid, Robert, loves to see his starters in the preseason. I have seen Andy Reid play Pat Mahomes for an entire half. What's that got to be like for a Chiefs fan? Like, where are Chiefs fans on how much Pat Mahomes should be playing in the preseason, I wonder?
Ooh, I don't know. I generally defer and always think, like, hey, you know what? My coach is smarter than I am. They see these players more. The general manager knows more than I do. Why did they draft this guy? Well, they know more than you do. But if my quarterback has won multiple Super Bowls, I'm like, what does he really need to do out there, Andy? Like, I don't think it was the Chiefs. I feel like someone took this stance of like, no, our starters need to play. And then their quarterback got like nicked up in the preseason. Like, my memory is fading on this, but I would probably be a little hesitant. I'd be like, okay, does Pat complete one pass to Rashee Rice? Okay, he's fine. Pull him out. Put in who is their backup?
I was about to say.
Gardner Minshew.
That's right.
They old Eagles quarterback that they had last year, redheaded, ginger.
Well, Wentz. They had Wentz last year.
Right. So they have traded him in for the much, much cooler version.
Where did Wentz land?
I believe he's still a free agent.
Yeah, he's a free agent.
So a little Gardner Minshew action today. You'd think that the quarterbacks backing up Pat would be like, oh, yeah, my time to shine. But in all reality, just get to sit back and wait for Pat to lead these 2 scoring drives, and then you get to play with the backups, buddy.
Well, and I will say the Chiefs were not very good in the regular season last year offensively, still walked their way to a division title and ended up in the Super Bowl no matter what. We know what happened after that. But Andy Reid not straying from his typical practice of playing his starters, including his quarterback. So that's some housekeeping stuff on who will and won't be playing tonight on your TV if you're watching preseason football. Reminder that you're a sicko if you bet on preseason football. But for said sickos, Colts are minus 6.5 tonight in Baltimore.
Ooh, Ravens have been on a terrible kick on preseason lately. Ever since they lost their preseason
the win streak ended. That's right. What was the streak at? Like 15?
It was like 8 years of preseason games. It was nuts.
Oh man, that was insane. And they ended up losing 2 last year, right? Didn't they lose 2 preseason games?
I believe they lost that is correct. They lost to the Commanders because Samuel Cosme, their left guard, was like, this is a Super Bowl to them, which is so stupid. I remember making fun of them and be like, you guys need to worry about winning a game. They made it farther than the Ravens did.
They did.
And then they lost to the Eagles, who take on the Bengals tonight.
Meanwhile, Jerry Jones keeps talking in the midst of this Micah Parsons stuff, as it's a standstill. Doesn't seem to be any movement between Jerry and Micah, to the point where Jerry is saying he's not confident Micah Parsons will be available week 1. And then he speaks with NFL Network and has this to say about the Micah Parsons situation and the lack of a deal done between the Cowboys and their star pass rusher.
It's my understanding nothing was put in writing. So how would you describe a deal getting, so to speak, done and then walked away from?
I bought the Dallas Cowboys with a handshake. Took about 30 seconds. And I gave the number, shook hands. The details we worked out later. As a matter of fact, one of the details involved a lot of money, and we had to flip a coin over that. But the fundamental I'm buying and you're going to sell it to me for that range, that's done. And those are done with eye contact and handshake.
So is there...
So just so you understand why the way that I communicate with people that I negotiate with. So, but let's leave it at that. There is no question that in the case of a player contract, you have to have it in writing. All parties do. We have a contract in writing, yet we're still talking about renegotiating it. So much for that.
So what's the sticking point for you right now at this point?
Again, there are no point. There's points of varying degrees of influencing, not having something done, but nothing that I would say is out of the ordinary.
So that's Jerry Jones giving us the back in my day when I bought the Dallas Cowboys.
It was for a nickel and a Coke. He kind of reminds me of like boomers now being like, why don't kids just work hard and buy a house? Back in my day.
Just buy a house. I don't understand.
Yeah, why don't you guys just work hard? Like, back in my day, we worked hard for things we wanted, and that's why we were able to buy houses. It's like,
I bought a house for 2 nickels and a piece of gum. You can't buy a house. Jerry, talking about his acquisition of the Cowboys almost 40 years ago. Micah Parsons doesn't care about that. It's 2025, Jerry. You got to put pen to paper. Every time he has spoken on this, he's made it worse. Jerry Jones continues to put the attention on Jerry Jones. And again, the assumption is that, yeah, Micah Parsons is going to be a Dallas Cowboy, as I almost knock my headphones off my head. And that's the assumption, and that's fine. But the closer we get to the season on this, the further away they seem to be from getting something done. And the more the relationship seems to be soured. If Jerry would just stop talking about it, we wouldn't be talking about it as much as we are. The national narrative of it wouldn't be as toxic as it is. And Micah Parsons is listening to that stuff. He's hearing you talk. He mentioned in his statement what Jerry said about him not being available for a few games last year. So this thing just continues to get worse, I'm sure, delighting Cowboy haters all over the place.
Did you see the Instagram comments that were exchanged yesterday between Micah Parsons and Aaron Donald? Aaron Donald commented on Instagram on a rumor that was like, Micah Parsons to the Rams. He was like, if this happens, I may have to come out of retirement. And Micah Parsons saw this, responded, and was like, bro, do not say things like this, and then tagged his agent, David Mulugeta.
Yeah.
So, one, that would be incredible. That would be like the Monstars on a defensive line. Two, I don't know how the Rams pay all of these people. They just paid Devontae Adams, old-ass Devontae Adams, all this money, and Aaron Donald's like, yeah, I'll come out of retirement if you trade for this other guy who's also going to make astronomical money. Like, they just find another couch cushions. This is what happens when you're that's the attractive tax.
Yeah.
When you've got a good-looking coach, and honestly, I don't think Les Snead gets enough benefit of the doubt as an older gentleman, an elder statesman. He's a good-looking older dude. They don't employ one ugly coach. It is only attractive people in their coaching staff. So I think they get the benefit of the doubt. I think they move the salary cap in their favor. And if Micah Parsons goes there, I think that will just prove my point.
Well, Jerry's bleeping around. We'll see if he ends up finding out. Speaking of the Rams, this kind of snuck under the radar. Ian Rappaport reporting the other day, this was yesterday, that Matthew Stafford is dealing with an aggravated disc and has received an epidural to help him deal with it. L.A. is calling him week to week. They're being cautious. They have plans for him to be ready by week 1. Just a reminder that the Titans host the Rams in week 2 for the home opener at Nissan Stadium. We'll kind of just put that over here and see if we need to revisit it at any point. This also snuck under the radar. Jordan Addison is suspended for the first 3 games of the 2025 regular season. The Vikings receiver for violating the NFL's substance of abuse policy. Strange way that was worded. Tom Pelissero on the report. Substance abuse policy. We'll leave it at that. So the Vikings, to open up the season without their number 2 receiver, go to Chicago, host the Atlanta Falcons, and host the Cincinnati Bengals. And they'll do it without Jordan Addison.
I will have to look into that because I assumed that was from his... Oh, okay. I did find it. He was arrested under suspicion of driving under the influence in Los Angeles.
There you
So
go.
it was a driving incident, but he was had suspicion that he had been drinking. So that makes sense.
And Keenan Allen is back in L.A. to play for the Chargers. So he heads back to join up that wide receiver core again, a 1-year, $8.52 million deal. That was from Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. And then to close it out, Travis Hunter is going to play both sides in the preseason game this weekend. Liam Cohen has said the Jags in their preseason game Saturday against the Steelers at home will deploy Travis Hunter at wide receiver and at cornerback. So we get the first glimpse into what is one of the more fascinating narratives in the National Football League this year.
Yeah, wear him out. Get him to go ahead and get him good and tired. Let him play both sides of the ball all through August. And when we're actually playing meaningful football and he has as John Harbaugh calls it, a camp thing, which is just a lingering injury, you will be the one to blame. Yeah, let's go ahead and try this. Practice is not good enough. You're going to play both sides of the ball. In fact, let him play the whole game. Why not? Why not? This just seems like a harebrained scheme to me. Like, okay, if you wanted to tell me he's the backup outside corner, he's going to play some defense, play offense, I would go, you know what? You're a smart guy. Maybe you figure it out. But having him play offense and defense in preseason, why not pick a game he plays offense? Pick a game he plays defense. Now he has to worry about maybe Travis Hunter is the most intellectually gifted football player of all time. But even moving space and time, I could not fathom you being in two places at once in both of these meetings to go over the intricacies of what each position group coach wants you to hone in on. He may be the quickest study, and he may get to camp, may get to the studios at 3 a.m. He may beat Cam in, but I don't see a way that he would be able to study, have all of this done, and play accordingly. Unless, if he is, more power to you. But I will be waiting to see.
They're jumping in with both feet with it. We'll see what happens Saturday night. Cam Ward met with Titans media after practice today. We will play some of his comments for you. And Bucs sit down with Titans linebacker James Williams. Hour 3 is next.
12:01. Good afternoon. Live from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I am Robert Walsh. Fiery practice in Tampa Bay between the Bucs and the Titans today. Buck Rising has boots on the ground. He will join the show in the final hour of the show coming up in just a second, and will join us with James Williams, an interview he did earlier in the day. Excited to hear from James. A little bit of roster news from the Titans as they placed offensive lineman Chandler Brewer on injured reserve, signing defensive end Joe Gaziano. Gaziano had mostly been a rotational player through his career, only one sack, but had played in 26 games over 5 seasons. Preseason officially starts tonight, though. We got a 3-game slate as the Colts take on the Ravens, with Anthony Richardson getting the start at quarterback. That game starts at 6. Joe Burrow and the Bengals taking on the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles at 6:30, followed by the Pete Carroll and Geno Smith revenge game as the Raiders take on the Seahawks. Kickoff at 9 o'clock. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final stretch, hour 3, coming off of Titans joint practice in Tampa Bay ahead of Saturday's preseason opener. Welcome back in. With you until 1 o'clock, Lucas Panzica and Robert Walsh in studio. Buck set to join us in moments from Tampa, his hotel room, after getting home from Titans practice. That seemed like it was spirited, seemed like it was fiery, seemed like there were some mistakes, and there was some success. A healthy balance from the outside looking in. We'll get the boots on the ground reporting here momentarily. His conversation with Titans linebacker James Williams as well. But for Cam Ward, a mistake to kind of lead things off in team drills, throwing straight to Bucs pass rusher Hassan Reddick, and then a bounce back from the Titans rookie quarterback. And he spoke right after practice with Titans media about that moment and the response that followed in joint practice.
You just got to respond. I tried to throw it around him. I didn't throw it far enough inside for Chi to get it. And then you got to be able to respond. Hold up the guys. And you say, next play. I'm going to have a pick in a real game. Nobody trips. It's all about how you respond for the next drive. You just got to keep playing football.
So that is Cam Ward talking about the mistake and the response that followed.
Buck Rising, a huge Hassan Reddick fan, I assume. It's really tough to differentiate when you mean Bucs as in Buccaneers and Bucs as in our Buck.
Hassan Reddick, famously, who didn't want to show up to work for long stretches of last year. So, yeah, I could see how there could be some overlap there.
God, I'd hate if he was here right now to just hear us totally digging on him.
Are you nice and...
Why would that be any different from any other day? What do you mean?
Are you nice and cool? How's the weather in Tampa?
You know what? It was honestly, it was worse in camp in Nashville for that stretch of, 90-plus days than it was out there today. And maybe, honestly, guys, just because it was so much fun. Like, today was a fun practice, and not just because joint camps are always fun, and not just because, high-level competition and you get a fresh look at a different team, and it's always fun to see things like Mike Evans and Antoine Woodfield Jr. and things like that, but because I thought they were pretty evenly matched. I mean, I heard your point about Cam starting it off with a pick and team, and they did not have a stellar opening series on the 7-on-7 in the very first drill of practice there, and then after that, man, I thought they acquitted themselves very well, and to be honest, it's as good as they've looked in a red zone, Lucas, Robert, at any point, and this is against a quality defense, the kind of defense that should give them problems, right? I mean, Denard Wilson used to work for Todd Bowles with the New York Jets, so it is something that I think you'll hear from James Williams here in just a second. His answers are very short. It takes James Williams the same amount of time to answer 5 questions as it does J.C. Latham to answer 1, but we appreciate it nonetheless. It's hot and everybody's been working hard out there. But just the idea that, yeah, they've seen a lot of this stuff, and it didn't necessarily strike me, at least from the untrained eye, that they were ill-equipped to be able to handle a quality defense. And I admittedly, I didn't watch as much of the Titans defense as I did the Titans offense, but did try and, split things up respectfully to Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle. Every time they came in, I would turn my attention to the defense if Jeff and them were out there against Baker Mayfield and stuff like that. So didn't quite catch as much. But at least from the offensive perspective, which is, I think, the thing that most people are concerned about, given the amount of time we spent discussing it, pretty sharp.
So we'll hear from James Williams, that discussion coming up in the next segment. Just keeping it on, obviously, the offense and Cam Ward. What you said, pretty evenly matched, especially with the best stuff coming after probably the worst mistake of the day. Robert and I were having the discussion earlier. To me, that sounds like almost best case scenario of what you could want out of a day like today, right? Because the Titans were never going to go down to Tampa and just run the Bucs off their own practice field, right? They're not equipped to do that at this point with the rookie quarterback and understanding all their deficiencies. What you didn't want was to go down there and just be drowned out by a playoff caliber football team that's looking for a fourth straight division title, as you know, as we can debate the merits of that and how weak the NFC South is. But the Bucs, unquestionably right now, a more competent, a better organization, a better team than the Titans. That goes without saying. So to me, what you're saying sounds like as good as you can hope. An evenly matched day where the quarterback bounced back and had some of his best stuff in the red zone towards the end of practice with a competitive feel to the day.
Lucas, you know me. You know I would nitpick them if I felt it was necessary, or even if I didn't feel it was necessary. Just, you know, that's how I'm wired. But I have nothing but good things to say about the way that they handled themselves, and in particular him. I mean, and really not just him. Like, I know Jarvis Brownlee got into it with fans. I don't know if you guys have talked about that.
Was it a helmet snatch again? What happened?
So I didn't see what instigated, though I could hear. Listen, Bucs fans are very loud. They're very aggressive, and they're very close to the practice field. You didn't come with Titans radio in 21, if I'm not mistaken.
I've never been to Tampa.
Okay, so the way that it's set up is they have many available like tents and bleachers that are lining one specific L-shaped part of the practice field. They have a VIP tent even further over, but like the proximity from the stands to the actual practice field, it's very, very close. So, and in fact, I was talking to Chad Brinker after Jarvis got into it with the fans, and the Titans were kind of good with the idea of, yeah, they need to be chirped at a little bit. They need to show that they can handle themselves. They need to respond, not just from what the players on the field are telling them or not just what the coaches are giving them on any given play, but they need to respond to some adversity. That's why we bring them into these environments. So I don't know what specifically was said to Jarvis, but they were saying plenty of things. Bucs fans were very loud. They were doing chants. They were jeering. They were booing. They were, they were getting excited because Mike Evans is still a terror in the low red zone, as you would come to expect. But no, I don't think a helmet snatching situation. Although I'm sure Jarvis probably a little irked still from the helmet snatching situation. So to probably bring in a few extra words of kindness and courtesy to Bucs fans on behalf of whichever Titans fan snatched his helmet yesterday.
So it seems like that kind of is what colored the practice early on. Did a lot of the fiery, like chippy stuff with Jeff, and it seemed like there was a bench clearing skirmish at one point. Was that kind of pretty front heavy, and then they kind of settled in, started getting work in?
No, it was about the middle of practice when that happened, and so the way that they, and I didn't have a script from the team, but it was about period 8 or 9 when that happened. So I would say about halfway through the practice, because that was the first time that they had both full teams on opposing sidelines on one field and repping it out together. Now, I want to say this, and because I understand, things may get lost in the shuffle on social media. Jeff didn't start that fight. That's Cody Barton and Graham Barton. That's Barton on Barton crime in there, and then Draymond Jones.
No, Cody Mock, right? Cody Mock.
Cody Mock. Okay, Cody Mock. But Graham Barton also involved in the mix in the middle of all of this, and I saw Draymond Jones go in to continue to push and shove people on behalf of Cody Barton, and Jeff Simmons was there to pull Draymond Jones off. But what happened is Jeff got pushed from behind, ended up on the ground. Then that's when the bench is clear, because when your team leader, your team captain, face of the franchise right now goes down, there's obviously going to be a little more juice. So for once in, I think, his professional football career, and probably his football career, Jeff Simmons did not start that fight.
How about that? That's growth, baby.
Growth,
That's
baby.
What that is. That's fantastic. How about it? All right, so you sat down with James Williams. Before we hit a break and hear from it, can you give us a quick preview?
Yeah, he's so physically different looking from the player that arrived here from Miami as a 7th-round pick, and you can tell it in the way that he moves and the way that he operates, and just the ability to play freely. JC kind of touched on that yesterday. Second year in the defense, Cody Barton alongside to kind of help him through that, and he answered. He was very complimentary of both of those individuals, as well as the defensive communication on the whole. Communication was the centerpiece of this 2.5 minutes that you're about to hear.
All right, we'll hear from James Williams and continue to break down Cam Ward's day of practice next on 104.5 The Zone.
Introducing Premier Generators, now in Nashville, the largest certified Generac dealer in Tennessee. When power outages strike, protect your family with a top-tier generator solution. Expertly installed by local specialists, Premier Generators dedicates itself solely to generators, offering unmatched expertise, plus enjoy the peace of mind with an extended 10-year warranty. Don't wait for the next storm. They pop up more and more these days. Schedule your consultation today. Make sure you're prepared. Visit premiergenerators.com. That's premiergenerators.com. Be prepared and choose Premier Generators for reliable power solutions. Their number, if you would like to contact them that way, is 1-855-797-4766.
Good day of work in Tampa. Joint practice between Titans and Bucs. Obviously, a lot of attention on Cam Ward, and we'll get Bucs' reaction to what he saw from the rookie quarterback. But one other position battle that's been taking place throughout the course of camp, that inside linebacker spot next to Cody Barton, where James Williams seems to be in the driver's seat. From the jump, that's continued to be the case, and Buck caught up with James after practice today.
We'll go. Here with James Williams after a padded practice, joint practice with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How'd you feel like you guys got the work in today?
I feel like we got great work. We all competed. We all went out there, executed the call, and did what we had to do.
Y'all had 6 days of padded practice leading up to this, getting ready for the physicality. Do you feel like that helped you kind of have the right mindset, the right approach?
Yes, I feel like that helped a lot, get us ready for the first game. But we all knew what we was walking into camp. So we all prepared, we all ready, and we ready when the pass come on.
How do you feel the defense is coming together right now? I know you are getting a lot of reps, a lot of responsibility in this defense. Seems like the coaching staff really trusts you in particular.
I feel like we all hands-on with each other. We all buying into the defense. We all understand the defense. And coming to this second year, we all want to win. We all want to see each other succeed. So that came a big part of OTAs and why we all came together, and it shows when we out there on the field.
I know you're on to this year, but given what last year was, the lessons that you can pull from it heading into this year, understanding how bad some of those moments got, how much more does that motivate you?
Patience and discipline. Those two things taught me. Those are the two things I learned all last year, I should say. Patient with my eyes, patient with my number being called, patient with trusting the technique, and discipline. Have a discipline consistently in and out, doing what I got to do to execute the play and win on this rep. How much have you enjoyed working with Cody in particular? I know you got a lot of guys in the room. Obviously, a lot of guys are going to get reps and stuff like that. But Cody in particular, how big of an influence has he had? He been a great influence. A guy that came in with time and experience over everybody in the room. So he brought a lot of, basically like a third coach into the room. And it helped us on the field. And it helped us even, he'll send us videos later teaching us little small things that we can trigger and make plays faster. So kudos to Cody, and thanks Cody for helping us out. Year two in Denard Wilson's defense, how much easier is it to play fast when you've understood the concepts, gotten a year in the system, and get just able to operate a little more freely that way? The biggest thing was understanding why he calling certain plays on this play, why he doing this. So once I figured that out, and once I understand that, it helps me and him play faster. So kudos to Coach D. Full contact for the first time on Saturday. You ready? Of course. We're looking forward to it. That's James Williams. Appreciate you, boss. Thank you. Thanks, James.
That's James Williams, Titans linebacker with Buck after practice today. Buck, I know you said you spent most of the time watching Cam Ward and the offense, understandably so. But I got to say, of all the reporting coming down from you guys, from Bucs media, I don't think I saw Baker Mayfield's name once with the Bucs offense. I saw flashes from Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka that people are excited about. But did you get a grasp on anything that the Titans defense was able to do in team stuff against Baker and the offense?
Yeah, I mean, I watched a good bit of their low red zone work against the Titans defense. Obviously, Mike Evans, bleep it, he's down there somewhere, worked plenty, but Jeff just brutalized some poor running back in a backfield. They were not terribly efficient. I mean, we had a team versus team setting, and I wouldn't say that the Titans were better or anything like that. I felt it was a push. Baker missed a couple of deep shots at the end zone. He stalled out once on second and third down through a couple of incompletions. They weren't punting in this setting necessarily, so they would just turn the ball back over to the opposing offense as if it was a turnover on downs. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a stellar day for Baker, who I know is working his way back. He's been missing some time with some injury. I think this is his second practice back since he's had the hand contusion, and not to make any excuses for him like that, because I thought Darrell Baker Jr. had some really nice pass breakups. I thought that L'Jarius Sneed, who is here in Tampa, was coaching him up from the sidelines. All of the young players. I thought against the ones they acquitted themselves pretty well, and this is a high flying offense, or at least it was last year, right? They have a change in coordinator with Liam Cohen. There's going to be some differences there. I think a lot of the language, just talking to Greg Allman in particular, who works for Fox, he's been a long time Bucs reporter down here, just kind of chatting with him a little bit on the sideline during some of this. It sounds like they're still working through some kinks of their own, as everybody is in training camp. That's not specific to the Titans or the Bucs. But yeah, I mean, they weren't spectacular by any stretch of the imagination, and I thought the Titans were getting home a fair amount.
So when you say getting home, you're talking about the pass rush, Femi Oladejo. We've got a question in the chat about did Femi had a good day?
I did not. I can't say that I noticed Femi individually, but I did think that the pass rush was effective. Now, what's the most important thing in the Bucs pass protection?
Oh, he's not there.
Tristan Wirfs. Yeah. Tristan Wirfs is not practicing. He is expected to miss, I think, at least maybe the first couple of weeks of the regular season.
Shoulder, I think.
So, and he's regarded as, if not one of the best left tackles, the best left tackle in football right now. So I don't want to, and again, you practice against who's out there. So they had a good day against who was out there, and whoever 78 is for the Bucs, I've got a flip card roster somewhere around here that I can pull out. But he is not Tristan Wirfs for obvious reasons. So I did think that the Titans pass rush was effective. I thought the interior was good. Sweat, again, not practicing out there. Neither was Kevin Winston. So I thought they were able to disrupt some things. And Baker took some shots. He just wasn't. They weren't connecting on him.
Buck Rising hanging out in his hotel room in Tampa after watching joint practice. So Todd Bowles says the Bucs will not play starters on Saturday. Titans will. Brian Callahan has already said 1 to 2 series for Cam Ward. He expects a lot of starters to play every game, it sounds like. But with the Bucs not necessarily rolling out the ones on Saturday, do you expect that to change anything about how the Titans go about Saturday night?
No, and they didn't indicate anything as such. I mean, what are they going to tell us right now? I think they still have yet meetings. Now, here's what I'll say to the audience. I'm going to sit down with Brian Callahan tomorrow at the team hotel before the radio show, and perhaps we'll have some more insights there. And obviously, Titans Radio will be underway for the first time in earnest on Saturday. So if it does not make it into our conversation with Brian Callahan, because I'm going to be the only one to talk to him after practice and after they've had some of these meetings, given that he spoke to us this morning. So I would imagine that there would be some more insights there. I don't know how much he'll give us in addition, but I think Brian's always pretty transparent with this kind of stuff. I think the only thing that you might keep an eye on is guys who are a little longer in the tooth. How much do they play? Like, does Tyler Lockett and Calvin Ridley really need as much as Cam Ward does in this particular situation? I understand that there's chemistry that's required, but I feel pretty good about the Calvin Ridley-Cam Ward connection. Not to say that they don't need to continue to work on that, continue to workshop it as we go. But if Cam Ward gets 2 series, does Calvin need more than 1 in this situation? I think those things might be taken into consideration. But that's just speculation on my part. I can ask Callahan more specifically tomorrow morning.
Titans Countdown is on the air at 5:30 Saturday, so Taylor Zarzer will have a conversation with Brian Callahan that will air leading up to kickoff.
And a quick correction, just quickly, Lucas. I said 78. 78 is Tristan Wirfs. Charlie Heck, 77 is his backup.
We have a question, Swalt10, on the F&M Bank chat on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch, where you can hang out. You can also call in with a question, 615-737-1045. Swalt10 says, did Vita Vea practice? Haven't heard him mentioned once, which is a good thing if he did practice.
Vea did not practice. Yeah, no,
okay.
I did not see Vea out there. Vea tough to miss.
Yeah. Well, that's a shame. That is a matchup that I was intrigued to hear about.
Yeah, and that's just kind of the nature of what these things are, right? I remember the last time we were down here in 21, Derrick Henry, Julio Jones, nor A.J. Brown practiced. So it was just kind of all right, how much are we really going to learn about what this football team is, even though the joint work is valuable to a lot of dudes on the roster, and there's guys who you're trying to, who you're going to rely upon if injury does strike, as it typically does, or, God forbid, some other mitigating circumstance. But, Vita Vea is not somebody. Vita Vea is good at what he does. If you're Todd Bowles, you're probably we'll figure it out. We need to get some other guys some reps here. So no Vea today.
Offensive line for the Titans today, going up against Hassan Reddick, going up, I'm assuming Diaby practice for the Bucs today?
Yeah, Diaby, yep.
Okay.
Practice. I thought the protection was good, and again, the precursor is Corey Levin, who would probably get stuck in Vita Vea's belly button, did not have to deal with Vita Vea today. So that, I think, would change some things as far as the effectiveness of what that Bucs front is. What I will say is, there were times when Diaby in particular, and I want to say this was the first of the Titans ones versus Bucs ones defensive team stuff before they came together on the one field as 2 collective rosters. Yaya Diaby got into the backfield. Cam Ward, he was working off of, that would have been Dan Moore. Dan Moore, he was working off the left side of the Titans offensive line. push Dan Moore back enough that it could make Cam Ward uncomfortable. Gunnar Helm comes free on up the seam. Ward is able to just barely get that ball out. I don't know in a real situation if it would have resulted in a sack, but Diaby didn't get there in time, at least enough to put a hand on Cam Ward, and it was a really, really nice throw under duress. And Gunnar Helm, that connection continues to be something that I'm really excited about. I know, Robert, we did the powder wet segment yesterday, and that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was yours, where Coach Mack, whose his birthday, as I'm sure you all have noted.
We have.
Today. Happy birthday, Coach Mack.
Coach Mack and Lee Corso.
Yes, that's what Robert informed me during the break. A star-studded birthday on August the 7th. I think that Gunnar Helm is worth at least being cautiously optimistic about, if not outright powder wet.
Powder is soaking wet for Bert on
Powder dripping.
I don't want to think about anything dripping or soaking wet off Robert. I'm pretty sure we got emails about that over the weekend.
He walked in this morning dripping wet with sweat because his AC blew out last night.
Oh, my God. I thought this is my escape from the hellscape that is my upstairs right now. We get off of training camp. I walk upstairs. I'm defeated but ready to start anew, right? I can't wait to get into just a cold shower all the way to the right side. But I'm met with a wall of heat that just singes my eyebrows off. And I get upstairs and I'm like, wait, is this a desert? I look at the AC unit. It's like 91 degrees. So my AC decided yesterday was the day to just hop out the window and not work anymore. The worst part was I called, scheduled it like a regular adult, not scared to make phone calls around here, Cheyenne. So I call them, get it in, and they let me know, oh, yeah, we'll send you a text about the scheduling. I wake up this morning dripping sweat, 88 degrees in my house, and look at my phone as I peel my eyes open. You've been scheduled for an AC repair. Oh, great. August 13th. 6 days from now.
Next Wednesday.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way. Even myself, I would be able to.
Who are you using? I know we don't publicly take businesses out like that, but the good folks at Lee Company would not let you suffer that way.
Yeah, let's just say that the company that I'm using is not as progressive as I would like them to be. It's progressive. That's who I read.
Wait, progressive?
That's who
like the insurance company?
No, or progression? I don't know. I was on the phone with her for 45 minutes.
Flow.
You would assume, well, she needs to get some airflow in my house because I am dying. I assume the weather is much better down there in Tampa. I don't know about you guys, but as soon as I get checked into a hotel, I just crank that thing down to as low as it'll go. 60 degrees.
Well, Lucas is a freak that way. He just wants to sit. He's like a lizard in the sun.
No, I'm not a lizard.
Soak it up.
For if I want it to be at a crisp 70.
Did you hear how defensive he got? No, I'm not a lizard. Not a lizard, you guys.
70 is a perfectly acceptable temperature for a room.
It is 63 degrees in my hotel.
Oh, that's incredible.
Oh, that's so cold.
I would instantly take a nap.
I like to be a little chilly, and then when I go to bed at night, I like to get into the covers, and I like to feel cozy that way.
Yeah, everybody says that, and that's all well and good, but then you have to wake up, and you have to take the covers off and get out of the bed, and there's nothing worse to me than stepping out of bed into freezing cold. Like, to start your day that way is
Lucas,
misery.
It's Tampa. There is condensation. You can't see out of the window because the air is so thick out here, all right? All I need to do is open the door, and it just hits me in the face like Robert's lack of AC.
Last thing before we move back to Titans.
Are we sure? I mean, I could sit here and talk about air conditioning all day.
We're getting shout-outs. Slay is in the chat, shouting out Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Jason.
Slay. No, take your shout-outs on your show. Get out of here. Although we do like the
Jason shouting out Hiller as well.
A big shout-out to all those people. Lucas.
Slay, tell your co-hosts that I will do 3:20 today because I forgot to text both Brent and Dawn back.
This is so professional. I love that. Listen at 3HL at 3:20 to hear Buck Rising's training camp report. Lucas and I went to a Vol game once where we stayed in the same hotel room. It was me, Cheyenne, and a solo Lucas who slept on the sofa bed. I did not understand that whatever number you put on the thermostat, it will go to that. I just always thought that the numbers were irrelevant once you went past 60. Like, there's no way this room would be 60.
What?
When I woke up, so I hit it, and I hit it all the way down to like 45. Oh. When we woke up in the middle of the night,
it was so cold.
Lucas, I look over there, and I'm like, What is happening? Lucas is balled up on this sofa bed in the corner.
Position.
It is so cold. I can't move. My jaw was chattering. Like, we had to open the door and leave it propped up so regular air would circulate. It's the coldest hotel room I've ever been in, and Lucas still wouldn't let me snuggle with him.
My lips were blue. I had a tiny little blanket, and I had to go, in the middle of the night, I woke up, went to my bag, and put on every article of clothing that was in the bag and just suffered through the night while Robert got the benefit of a nice big comforter in a bed and body heat, and you left me to die.
Cheyenne usually does not let me touch her. We have a king where we don't have to be in the same room. We don't even have to basically be in the same room while we cohabitate the same room. And she was clinging to me like a cicada to a tree. You could not remove her. Like she
what
was
a terrible thing to compare your girlfriend. Most people say like a puppy or a kitten, maybe like a koala bear. You just called your loving and sweet girlfriend a cicada on a tree.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
I prefer the noises cicadas make.
Quickly, before we do actually have to move back and talk about football stuff, otherwise Cumulus is going to wonder, what the hell are you doing down there? What are you expensing for 4 straight days without talking about football? I'm told that you should keep your AC temperature about the same temperature as a white wine cooler, because that helps your metabolism. So like somewhere in the 50s is appropriate.
Oh, please. What are we, in Antarctica? That's insanity.
In Antarctica.
Cam Ward, though, ice running through his veins. I loved his answer.
Very nice. Somewhere Mickey Ryan is smiling.
I loved his answer about
Mickey's good.
About responding. Yeah, I'm like a great value Mickey when it comes to the transitions. Or whatever's worse than great value. His response about bouncing back from the interception and what he did on the field today after the initial interception by Hassan Reddick, for me, like, highlights everything that I want to see from Cam Ward in training camp. Like, I want to see the mistakes, and then I want to see the corresponding move after the mistakes. And it sounds like today that was positive, what Cam Ward did in response to that early mistake in the team drills to Hassan Reddick.
Oh, that was for me.
Yeah, it wasn't for me.
Well, sorry, I was making sure this video I scheduled.
What was for you?
I assumed you wanted that video, me to play the audio.
No, I mean, sure, let's listen to Cam Ward. Yeah.
I assumed Buck would pick it up.
Are you kidding me?
No, just because you're on the road, you think you don't have to respond to takes anymore?
No, I thought he was tossing the audio. I didn't know that was for me.
We played the audio right before you hopped on at the top of the 12 o'clock hour, but let's hear from Cam Ward.
I just got to respond. I tried to throw it around him. I didn't throw it far enough inside for Chi to get it. And then you got to be able to respond. Hold up the guys. And you say, next play. I'm going to have a pick in a real game. Nobody trips. It's all about how you respond for the next drive. You just got to keep playing football.
Oh, that is so refreshing. That's Cam Ward after practice today. Because what do we most associate interceptions with around here? Oh my God, what's he going to do next?
Right.
Like what's the next shoe to drop on this particular situation? Because interceptions here don't just mean, or at least here they have meant, well, all right, where is the spiral coming? Like, how much worse is this going to get beyond the interception? Because that is most associated with the Will Levis experience. The fact that he can compartmentalize in real time while the, for lack of a better term, the bullets are flying and Bucs fans are chirping at him and Bucs players are yelling and celebrating and there's music and noise and all kind of other stuff. And he's just, your ice in his veins thing is stupid, but it's kind of true. Like, that's who this person is. That's a huge part of the reason why they wanted to draft him, beyond the skill set as a quarterback, but the person. It is so important for the long-term stability, the viability of this football team, to have somebody steady to guide you through all of these things, because he is going to make mistakes. He is going to throw interceptions. There are going to be defensive celebrations at his expense, and he's surrounded by a bunch of guys. Lucas, I'm sure we've talked about this in some form or fashion. He's surrounded with a bunch of guys who have been on this roster who come with baggage because they're used to the spiral the same way that we are. And he's there to be like, no, next play. Like, well, all right, we'll get him next series. And that's exactly what he did today in practice. That, again, it's one joint practice against one other NFL football team. And he'll play in the preseason. We'll see how much they actually drop him back versus how much he's handing off the ball and all these different kind of things, right? But in principle, the things that he is supposed to be taking day to day on top of the demeanor that he brings to this situation, are so critically important to the immediate and long-term success of the football team, because he's got to help bring all of these other guys who are used to the spiral out of that mindset as well. That's the kind of culture shift that we've talked about, or that you referenced yesterday about the importance of culture. He's going to set the tone and the standard that way.
Yeah, and it doesn't make him any deeper at the pass rush, right? No. It doesn't shore up any other deficiencies, a lack of defensive line depth.
Not going to save him if Calvin Ridley goes down.
Exactly. Like a lack of receiver depth and some unproven faces there that have to, like, it doesn't change any of that other stuff, but it can still be something for Titans fans to hold on to throughout the course of the season. And that was an encouraging response to me in the first joint practice, the first time in his career that he ever sees a different NFL team on the other side of the line of scrimmage. As understanding it is a practice, still, that to me was the favorite thing I heard from Cam Ward. Do you have anything to tease here on anything else you might have seen at practice?
You know what? I would like to talk about the young wide receivers, because I did see the two rookies talking to Emeka Egbuka after practice today, and I do think that's worth diving into a little bit, because I thought, well, that and special teams, because we got our first look at what the 11-on-11 stuff is supposed to look like from a punt return standpoint. So we can talk about that coming up next.
Right, 615-737-1045. Last call for phone calls. We'll do that and wrap up the show with polls next. Wrapping up the day after Titans joint practice with the Bucs. Heated, evenly matched, competitive down in Tampa ahead of Saturday's preseason opener. Buck is checking in from his hotel room as we take you until cover 2 starting at 1 o'clock here on 104.5 The Zone. Before we get to what you wanted to say about the young receivers, I did love, we haven't mentioned, in the, I think it was like the bench clearing kerfuffle, for lack of a better word, where Cam Ward is thrown.
You have used 4 different words to describe this one event by now.
Where, spelling bee champ, spell kerfuffle, where Cam Ward just throws a football in the middle of the pile towards a Bucs player. Tristan Wirfs is like hobbling off the sideline on his crutches to try to get in on the action. Like, it seemed a little chaotic.
Kaharski tweeted that Cam Ward fired a football into the crowd, which made it sound like Cam, professional NFL quarterback, ripped a ball at somebody, the way that a pitcher might if he was pissed at a batter or something like that. It was more a gentle lob, but he said, I was just trying to provide some aerial support there. He said he wasn't. He was asked. I think Jimmy asked him. No, Kaharski asked him if he was aiming for somebody in particular. He said, "Yeah, I was aiming for one of those red jerseys. Hell yeah."
Yeah, you can't get involved in there. You don't want your quarterback pushing and shoving. So
now he helped how he could. The other thing that I neglected to mention today, because I mentioned that I talked to Greg Allman, who pointed out that John Gruden was at practice for the first time in Bucs camp in quite some time. Apparently, he has not been around. He shows up from time to time, but you remember famously they took him out of the Ring of Honor after the whole emails thing. So that's been and you go at Roger, there's going to be some additional pressure. There was also some unflattering things about the Glazer family in there, if you remember, who owned the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So perhaps a sore subject. But John Gruden was at practice today, and I saw that he was talking before Cam left the field to do his post-practice routine that we are accustomed to seeing from him at training camp. He was getting some feedback from Gruden, which I didn't get to hear the full extent of. That's probably the only thing that I didn't get out of practice today that I wanted. I would like to hear what John Gruden was telling Cam Ward.
3 minutes ago, Gruden posted a selfie of he and Cam Ward on Twitter and said, the number 1 pick in the draft, Cam Ward. He is going to be exciting to watch. And I love that he, after watch, had an exclamation point and a 2, which I imagine is just a misfire trying to add a second exclamation point.
He doesn't tweet his own tweets. We know the person that runs his social media account.
It's true, but this one looks like it was tweeted by John Gruden, I will say. But yes, he was out and about hanging out with Cam Ward. All right, so what did you see from the rookie wideouts, Alec Iammanor and Chimere Dike today?
Iammanor in particular continues to be impressive, and that is something, as a red zone target, I think you're going to see a lot of him. He's just big. He's long. He was going up over the top of Bucs defensive backs and making plays. Now, they were specifically repping low red zone, but it's team stuff, so you're getting help and coverage on those plays. In fact, it's harder on the offense, which is why I was so impressed with the Titans' operation as a red zone unit today, because it's significantly easier on the defense to defend less grass when you've got that many bodies in a condensed space. And Iammanor was finding the holes in the zone, taking advantage of those one-on-ones where he got him. DK, I noticed more when they were going full field in team rather than in the low red zone stuff that they were doing. I did not watch the Titans because he was mostly running on offense, DK with the 2s. Iammanor's not getting exclusively first-team reps. I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. Lockett did practice today, though he was used sparingly because, again, he's an old man relative to the rest of the football team, so they want to make sure that they're protecting him for when they really need him. But I thought the 2 of them today had one of their better practices between the 2 of them as offensive players. Kickoff return is going to be worth watching DK on because I just don't think you can keep Jaquan Jackson on this team. And he is listed as the starting kick returner, which is interesting because Mason Kinsey was walking off the field saying, Jim, talking to Jim White, Jim, just remind him I'm still here. And then somebody said, and I won't name names, off to the side, yeah, but you're behind Jaquan Jackson, which does not necessarily speak volumes about your ability to succeed as a high level. But specific to the special teams, kickoff return is going to be a fascinating part of the preseason game. We are going to have a lot of eyes on that for obvious reasons. Punt return is going to be a fascinating part of the preseason game. And if this team puts anybody but James Prochet, your beloved James Prochet, Robert, back there to field these punts, they are in trouble. And I include Tajay Spears in that because it's so much more professional looking. I think he understands how to read blocks better than the rest of them right now in that kind of space. Not to say that Tajay isn't familiar with reading blocks. Obviously, he does it for a living as a running back. But Prochet needs to be the punt returner on this team unless he just is a disaster in real game action.
You know, sometimes you have to slum it down. Sometimes it's 2:30 and the bells are ringing and it's time to grab whoever's left. And sometimes she looks like a Prochet. So if that's what the Titans have to do this season, then that's what they have to do.
You need to stop treating this man like a war criminal just because he threw an interception for your football team.
He's going to come on the show at some point.
And I'm
Is
gonna,
he?
and
I don't. We don't.
Yes, no.
You know,
at this point, I want him on the show.
No. Listen, if we're to the point where we're having the punt returner on, if the season gets that bad, we need to talk to the punt returner. Something has happened.
If I had to face Will Levis.
Oh, come on.
Then Robert should have to face James Prochet.
Totally
you have
different.
to face Will Levis. No, you groveled in front of Will Levis. You didn't face him.
There is a difference between a second-round quarterback who is perceived as potentially a franchise guy and a street free agent who played for the Browns last year. Not even close to the same. But if he did come in, I would hope that he would bring gloves for all of us like he did those
He's got a lot of
fans
gloves.
on the sideline yesterday.
So many gloves. I'm convinced that maybe he took Jarvis Brownlee's helmet because he gave it to somebody. I'm convinced he's taking his teammates' gloves to give them away.
Let's do some polls.
All right.
The polls brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the most trusted Ford dealership in all of the South. The Titans and Bucs matchup today. Are you which of the Titans Bucs matchup today are you most looking forward to hearing about? Only got one response on this, but it was a good one. Titans O-line versus Bucs D-line, and I think it delivered. But what do you think, Buck?
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't over there for the one-on-ones for them specifically, but I thought when I watched them in team, it was pretty evenly matched. You said Titans O-line versus Bucs D-line, right? No Vita Vea in the middle of that does make a huge difference. But when Cam Ward was under pressure, he delivered, and I thought he was kept pretty clean for the most part.
I did see Todd Bowles talking about the Bucs needing to pass protect better on the interior today. Was that something that flashed to you? Jeffrey Simmons continuing without Tavondre Sweat, carrying over some of the success he's had against the Titans' interior O-line.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, what's Todd going to get up there and say? Be like, yeah, I just don't know what to do with that Jeff guy. Like, he's a real problem. No, our guys need to work a little harder. And they do have some good players on the interior, which include Ravenwood legend Graham Barton.
What is Vandy's ceiling in 2025? 6 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, or 9 wins or more? 6 wins, the lowest option in the lead with 33%, and then 9 and 8 tied with 20.6%. Available.
Have either of you guys watched the Any Given Saturday episode that covers Vanderbilt and the upset over Bama?
Ooh, I have not, but I bet that's a great watch.
Because Diego Pavia, we meant to talk about it today. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Diego Pavia, man, he does not pull punches. Like, this dude will say talking about the greatest quarterback to ever walk the earth, talking about Tennessee and bleep those guys. And
saying he's the greatest quarterback to ever walk this earth?
Yes. Diego Pavia has more moxie than anybody I've ever seen in my life. They documented the Bama upset really well, but Pavia's been making waves with some of the stuff that he was saying in these sit-down interviews.
You know, but the thing that I love about this man is I think he truly believes it. Like, I think he's just insane.
I'm into it. I love it. I wouldn't be if Vanderbilt had beat Tennessee last year, but they did it, so I'm all about it.
Yeah, let's talk. Let's circle back with Lucas on rivalry week when Vanderbilt goes to Neyland.
Right. If you could pick one player on the Bucs to add to the Titans, who would you pick? V-Love, our favorite out there. Future first ballot Hall of Famer Mike Evans. I think that is the correct answer. John Feely goes with the rookie Emeka Ibuka, and Jake Morgan says Levante David. Maybe 10 years ago, Levante David. I don't know if I would.
Well,
pick
not 10, maybe like 4. I mean, he's in year 14 for God's sakes. He's been an excellent player for a long, long time. No, I mean Levante David would solve a big problem for them because they've had problems with that linebacker core. But the correct answer is Mike Evans. Mike Evans forever and always. The dude is a monster.
Easily.
So much fun to watch today.
And were those the polls? Am I missing one?
One more.
Okay, yeah, but that's my fault. What Vols position group are you most worried about? Wide receivers, cornerbacks, pass rushers, offensive linemen. Overwhelming odds towards the wide receivers as they garnered 62.5% of the vote.
Yes, depth has been exposed with some early camp injuries. Nothing long-term, knock on wood. But if that sustains, then it's going to be a problem for Tennessee's pass catchers. Those are the polls?
Those are the polls.
That's the show, Buck. We will catch you tomorrow for the whole show. Am I to understand?
You certainly are. Well, we will be back here at the palatial downtown Tampa Courtyard Marriott, but I'm on 3HL at 3:20 today, so you're not quite done with me yet.
All right, cover 2 coming up next.
Let's face it, buying a vehicle should be straightforward and stress-free, and that's exactly how Two Rivers Ford has been doing business for decades. This locally owned dealership has a non-commissioned sales team whose only focus is to find you the right vehicle at the right price without the pressure. So you'll actually have a fun car buying experience. Great prices, easy financing, and a non-commissioned sales team. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.